Yes, this is the regular city council meeting of September 17th, 2024. And the first item on the agenda is the invocation given by Pastor Breanne Knutson with San Clemente Presbyterian Church.
Let us pray. Faithful and gracious God, we give you thanks for the privilege it is to gather together here, this particular people in this particular time and place. We thank you for the city to which we are able to live and called to love and serve. We are gathered here tonight because we believe that we are commissioned together into a work and a purpose that is much bigger than ourselves and one that we don't fully yet know or comprehend. We come with plans, dreams, problems, conflicts, and decisions before us. Among us are some whom arrive anxious, some who are lonely, some who suffer pain or sadness. Others arrive with spirits full of joy, hope, and anticipation. Wherever we are as individuals, we trust that you will meet us in both our lack and our excess, in both our joy and sorrow, and that collectively we trust that you hold all things together. Bless this meeting with a spirit of kindness, humility, and collaboration as we seek your will for the people and community of San Clemente. Give us ears to hear for the purpose of understanding. Protect the council members and all those who seek to serve the city as they give of their time and talents so sacrificially. In his name we pray. Amen.
Come up, we're here. All right. All right, put your hand on your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we will note for the record that all council members are present. First item on the agenda, special presentations. This is a presentation of Proclamation for Service Club Month. And Mayor, would you like to present the proclamations if the members of the Service Club could come up for a photo? Yes. Service Clubs.
Which service clubs do we have? All of them. All of them. You guys can check that out. At the same time.
You said everybody come for a photo.
Yeah, come on down.
You want us all together? PierPride Exchange Club? What's it say?
Here, I'm gonna read it.
All right, here, let me go ahead and read this. First of all, thank you all for being here to accept this. Whereas service clubs in Orange County are organizations that engage in community service, charitable work, and fundraising, these clubs have been an integral part of Orange County in many cases for over 100 years and have made significant contributions to the development of our communities. And whereas service clubs play a vital role in community development by providing resources and services to support local communities, they contribute to the various community projects and building playgrounds, supporting educational programs, and provide scholarships. And whereas these clubs engage in various charitable works, such as donating to food banks, homeless shelters, and disaster relief efforts, and whereas service clubs provide leadership development opportunities for their members and provide avenues to learn about leadership skills, team building, and communications, assist them in their personal and professional lives. And whereas these clubs have offered networking opportunities for members where they can interact with other professionals and community leaders, build relationships, and expand their social and professional networks. And whereas service clubs also focus on the development of the skills and talents of young people and providing mentoring, leadership training, scholarship opportunities, and students and organization programs to support underprivileged youth. And whereas these clubs encourage civic engagement by promoting volunteering and community service. Therefore, Be it resolved, I, Victor Cabral, Mayor of San Clemente, California, acting on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim September 2024 as Service Club Month. So thank you all. So
I'm just going to hold that farther away for you.
all right. Let me get in here and
We'll all squeeze in.
here, I don't know who's going to take it for all of you.
We'll give it to Tyler.
Andy's got it.
This little lady needs to come
Donna, you gotta get up there.
You gotta move in closer.
Farther? I didn't see the gap.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Take one from me.
Come on, there's 25 cameras, hold on.
Yeah, that's right. 5 minutes.
Your wife wants to know where you're at. She's right there.
All right. Thank you all.
Okay, I'll take it for the month of October. Okay.
They only get one plaque?
One
Yeah.
plaque, we're gonna share it.
Every week it goes to somebody else's house.
We're on a budget.
Wait, but the 8-year-old soccer girls all get a giant plaque?
We've been told to cut back.
Yes, I will call up the next presentation. Next is a presentation of proclamation for Indigenous Peoples Day and California Native American Day, and we are calling to the podium Sean Acuna, who is the tribal chair of Juaneño Band of Indians, Acachamin Nation 84B.
Everything good? Mark, you want to present one of these as Mayor Pro Tem that way?
You want to start?
Oh, we have
No, you go.
Okay.
I'm still catching my breath.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and it's an honor to give these to you. So, whereas the city of San Clemente recognizes Indigenous people throughout the United States and the world, and whereas Indigenous Peoples Day is a movement meant to replace Columbus Day for the positive impact that the Indigenous people have made on American society, and whereas, although having to endure oppression and displacement for decades, the Indigenous people have been resilient in fighting for their survival and rights, and whereas we today celebrate and honor the culture, traditions, and achievements of Indigenous people who were in the Americas long before the European colonization, and whereas we stand in solidarity with Indigenous people and call upon all citizens to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day. Now, therefore, Mayor of the City of San Clemente, acting on behalf of the City Council and the citizens of San Clemente, do hereby proclaim October 14th, 2024 as Indigenous Peoples Day.
I will also say, I mean, at the World Surf League, I know that there was a presentation there before we started there was a press conference with the nation there, and it reminds me that you know, we're guardians now of this land, temporary guardians of this land. We hold our responsibility as a city council sacred, and we hope that we're doing the right things the way you would do them. And I just thank you for being here and taking this recognition. But let me read this to you. It's all I will say, it's a responsibility we take seriously. And if ever you see us getting off course, just come and tell us that we're not doing the right things. So, okay, good. Whereas the City of San Clemente recognizes the importance of acknowledging and honoring the rich history, culture, and contributions of California Native Americans, and whereas California Native Americans Day provides the opportunity to celebrate the heritage, traditions, and resilience of California Native American people, And whereas California Native American Day offers a chance to educate the community about the diverse California Native American cultures that have shaped our region and our state and our city. Whereas the City of San Clemente aims to promote inclusivity, diversity, and respect for all individuals and communities within the City of San Clemente limits, and whereas recognizing California Native Americans Day will foster a greater understanding and appreciation for the historical and contemporary issues faced by the California Native American peoples, whereas many countries and cities across the state of California, counties and cities across the state of California have already established California Native American Day as an official observance to honor the indigenous people of this land. Now, therefore, I, Victor Cabral, Mayor of San Clemente, acting on behalf of the City Council and the citizens of San Clemente, do hereby proclaim September 27th as California Native American Day. So, thank you. Let me come in here with you. John, you want to hold it?
I don't want Rick in the picture either, but. Happy looking group.
You want to say a few words, Sean?
May I? Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to say something. Go ahead, come up here at the mic so that people can hear you. Come in this side.
Mium. So I wanted to say a few words, as we would call it, as a land acknowledgement. And we accept this on behalf of our ancestors who were part of this land thousands of years ago and the original stewards. We acknowledge our people continue to be present and continue stewardship in our original territory. We also acknowledge cities such as my hometown of San Clemente for being present with us. We continue to stay diligent with our culture, our people, as we pursue our goals of knowledge and understanding to all our relations. Aho. And I appreciate the acknowledgement the City of San Clemente has provided us today and your continuous support. And thank you.
Next, we have another one. Next item on the agenda is presentation of proclamation for Constitution Week, and this is a proclamation presented to Mary Dahm, representing the San Clemente Island chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, setting apart September 17th to the 24th, 2024 as Constitution Week. Is Mary Dahm here?
No,
I think we gave that earlier.
bell ringing, right? Yeah. Don't we have the photos or?
Yeah, she actually requested to have it presented in person also.
Well, oh, no, I presented in person to her at the Constitution Week, so she said, thank God, because she didn't want to have to come. All right. But do we have any of the video?
Next item on the agenda is presentation by Amber Gregg, representing PierPride concerning an update on PierPride events and achievements.
All right.
So every year the Daughters of the American Revolution gather at the Mission San Juan, which was founded in the same year as our country was founded in 1776, to honor the Constitution and to have actually, I guess Sean left, but actually it's one of the native Hashiman people who's been doing it for decades, ring the bells in honor of the Constitution. So that's what that was. So I was able to present the award to the Daughters of the American Revolution. They have many chapters there, including San Clemente Island, the local chapter. And it's pretty powerful, actually, to see this local native Hashiman people representative ring these bells that have been around for hundreds of years. So that's at the Mission San Juan. If you ever have a chance to go, incredible place with a lot of history there. So that was pretty fun to do that. And Mary, who was receiving the award, yeah, she wanted to get the award and then take care of her grandchildren tonight instead of coming to the meeting. So it all worked out.
All right, well, thank you so much. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and fellow council members. My name is Amber Gregg, and I have the honor of being the Vice President of PierPride. So thank you so much for having me here tonight. We'd just like to give you an update. October is PierPride month, so it's nice to tell everyone what's going to be going on for the month of October, and then also give you an update on what's transpired over the last year. So make sure that works. So just for the folks at home, in case they don't happen to know what PierPride is, we are a nonprofit foundation, and we work in partnership with community stakeholders as well as the city in order to help provide funding for the pier. And the reason why we exist is to help the pier be its best historic self, and we tried to help fill the funding gap when the redevelopment agency went away in 2013. We are a 100% based volunteer group. We are a very hardworking volunteer group, and most of which are here tonight. So I want to thank my fellow board members that are here with me and just kind of go over projects that we've done in the past. So since our incorporation, we've actually been able to complete a CIP project with the city every single year. That's no small feat for any organization, let alone a volunteer nonprofit organization. And some of the more notable improvements that we've done are the restroom remodels, the snack shack makeover, the holiday lights, and a couple others that you see there. But we're always looking forward, and in particular, we're looking at the 100-year anniversary of the pier, so the 100th birthday is in 2028, but we know how quick time flies, especially when we're talking about city years. Those seem to fly even faster. So the purpose of this is to open up the pier's views down to the beach and restore it more to its historic self when it was first built by Ole Hansen. So we have several goals with this. One is for the views itself, but really to improve safety in the area. It's a big pinch point. There's a transportation hub down at the pier. And so where the trolley converges and the train traffic and the pedestrians, and we're hoping to open that up a little bit. So that's what we're looking forward to for 2028. In addition to, one jump too. So to kind of show what that's going to look like once it's actually developed, in the picture on the left-hand side, most of that already exists today. The part that PierPride is looking at is just the area contained within that little yellow dash line. So again, everything else already exists, but within that little yellow dash line is landscaping today, and it's a sloped landscaping hill. And we did have a community meeting back in June, and there were 3 different options that were there, and this is the one that was selected by a majority of people in attendance. And so what this does is it creates a flat area to open up and relieve that pinch point of pedestrian traffic to make it safer, to make it more inviting. And so we're very excited about this design. But we don't only come up with ideas, we also try to find funding sources for the city, so that way the city doesn't have to front all the funding for this. So we've already provided 3 potential state funding opportunities to make this dream of ours come true. In addition to that, we had the good fortune of meeting with Supervisor Katrina Foley. She's very excited about the project as well, and she's taken it upon herself to spearhead additional funding opportunities with the county, OCTA, as well as federal funding. So our next step in the process is to advance the concept to design and engineering with the help of the city and determine what the overall project's cost will be. Right now, we're estimating it's going to be about $1 million to do all the improvements down there. And that would include the underpass improvements for drainage as well. So PierPride also does a community outreach in the form of a survey every single year. And so we just wanted to share with you what those survey results were. So what we do is we say, what would you like to see most happen down at the pier? So the first one was holiday lights. The community really loved the holiday lights on the pier. Hopefully everyone got to see them last year. They're quite beautiful. As well as explore the use of Trex for the railing. Right now we have a wood railing and it tends to get beat up a little bit. And then also fix the underpass, and they had noted in the form of murals, lighting, and drainage. So as I said in the beginning, October is PierPride month. We do have a couple of events. We are working with the city on the bicycle parking plan that's down there. It hasn't broken ground yet, but Samantha has assured me that her and the team are trying hard to get that project started and completed before the end of the year. We have the Light the Future of the Pier sponsor event on October 17th. We hope that all the council members will be able to join us as sponsors for PierPride. We'd love to have you there. And then we have a Get and Give fundraiser going on right now. Rainbow's Foundation donated 100 pairs of rainbow sandals. And so for every $100 that you give, you get a free pair of rainbow sandals. So it's like giving and getting for the price of one. So it's wonderful. We're excited about that. And then finally, we also wanted to let you know that PierPride did win an American Planning Association award this year for outstanding planning for transformative public spaces. And that award will be received on October 24th, and we would love for anyone to be able to come and receive that award along with us. We're very excited about that. So just to wrap up, we're excited to move forward with the project with the city, so thank you for your support. Once that bike improvements are done, we will be giving a check to the city once that's completed. And then also we hope that everyone can join us for PierPride Month events. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is council member reports.
Well, we, much thanks to the city, and I think we might hear a little bit about it, but if you didn't see, for 9/11, the city this year came together to commemorate that tragic day, which we cannot forget, right? It's important that we don't forget that day, it's how important it was. And so the city maintenance folks, they decorated the DeHay steps. The city, had a meeting at Ole Henson Beach Club, and then city folks walked all the same number of flights of stairs that the firefighters did going up the Twin Towers on 9/11. I can tell you that the Marine safety team did very well. Others, it was quite challenging to do all the flights. I did manage to do all 19 steps on behalf of the city council. Thank you.
19 steps?
19
steps.
19 flights. Yeah, 19 flights. But it was really I think a very cool and very important thing for the city to do. So a lot of credit for the city for doing that. And then they did a service project at the old city hall, cleaning it up and kind of making sure that that area is secure. We have Historical Society and others that store some things there. So that was a great event. And again, all credit to our city manager, Andy Hall, and to especially the folks who helped set up and all the city employees who came together to make that happen. There was a nice article about it in the Orange County Register. So that's who we are, right? We're a city who doesn't forget things like that. We celebrate our first responders, and great job to the city for making that happen. And hopefully you'll have a little bit to hear about it. Is that right, Andy?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
It's
All
on.
right. Next.
Steve, anything?
Yeah, I just want to mention that I attended a meeting with the mayor and the staff of the Army Corps of Engineer to discuss our ongoing sand project and looking at the future, both for this current sand dump and for the future of our next 50 years of sand. So we're going to be discussing that later on the agenda, so I'll just leave it with that.
Okay, Mark?
Had a great event at Stance facility for the junior guards. It was fantastic. They had all these professional surfers there. This was right before the WSL, and they had pizza and socks, and they invited all these Groms out to see these professional surfers and hear from them about their training, about what it means to be a professional surfer. And I think there's a bit of a stigma that goes along with surfing, and they really showed like what it means to have dedication, to have heart, to have strength and stamina, and to continue to go out day after day to surf these incredible waves. And it was just a great testament to our younger generation surfers in our town. So thank you to the Junior Guards Foundation who put that on, as well as all the professional surfers who came and spoke there.
All right, thank you.
Well, we're getting close. We're getting close to October 10th to the 14th, the big carnival at the sports park. Fantastic. It's the biggest fundraiser for the Friends of San Clemente Foundation. It gives back 100% of the money back to the city. It's going to be really fun this year on Saturday. It's going to be a beer garden / concert. The theme is bluegrass music. And it's going to be a couple of local bands that are really, really good. It's going to be from 1 till 9. Los Molinos is going to be the beer vendor. It should be really, really fun, directly adjacent to the carnival site. So it was a real great event last year. Hopefully, people will come out this year also.
No dunk tank this year?
Probably not.
To be decided. The other thing is WSL World Championships, and Caitlin Simmers for the women won the championship from, we'll take her as one of our honorary residents because she's only 12 miles down the road in Oceanside, and that was really, really exciting. And I happened to be in the state that John Florence lives in when the finals were being held, and it was like Mardi Gras when he won that event. The Hawaiian people are very, very excited about their surfing and their local surfers, so that was kind of fun to be there when that happened. So thank you.
All right, I only have a couple of quick items. One is I gave a presentation speech on Measure BB to, I'm trying to think which organization here. Well, I've got so many of them I've been speaking to, but I've been doing that, educating people about the pros and cons of the Measure BB. That'll be a continuing effort. We had an event where we honored our lifeguard of the year, Tyler Douglas, who was celebrated at an event by the Exchange Club at the community center. He got a brand new surfboard made just for him. I know some of the Exchange Club members are here. It was a fabulous lunch and event, part of the community activities that the club does in order to encourage and support the lifeguards in this town. Talking about the 9/11, I stopped by at the cleanup part, not the steps part, the cleanup part at City Hall. Didn't do a lot of work, but I was there to support our staff in doing that. I have one more presentation about the community engagement panel, but I'll talk about that when we talk about our different measures and the other items on the agenda. We had several meetings related to with Army Corps of Engineer, OCTA, others. So I'll report on that during the meeting. And all the other events that, when you guys speak first, you know, we sort of all attend different events together, so they've all been mentioned. So let's move on to the next item then.
Next item on the agenda is oral communications, and I'll call the first few speakers up. We actually only have 4 speaker cards at the moment. So Kathleen Pryor, followed by Mike Kay, followed by Rebecca Barnes. Kathleen?
Thank you. Mayor Cabal, Mayor Pro Temp and Meyer, Council Members Duncan, Knobloch, and Loeffler. I am Kathleen Pryor, President of the Laguna Heights Community Association and the Executive Director of Blessin. I am here to alert you to a threat to your community. A huge lithium battery storage facility comprised of 1,100 galvanized steel containers, each 30 feet long, was recently denied a permit by the city of San Juan Capistrano. The location of this facility is in a small valley, 5 miles north of Doheny Harbor, full of public trails, and has a stream that drains to the ocean. The energy company, ENGIE, a French company, through their American subsidiary, Compass, responded to the denial by informing the city of San Juan they would apply directly to the state for approval, which they have done. Lithium generates toxic, flammable, explosive waste. Our HOA board met with a representative from NG and one from Power Flow Development. The batteries are described as lithium iron phosphate or similar technology batteries in the request for a permit filed with the California Energy Commission. Similar batteries would include lithium ion, which has self-ignited in several battery facilities recently. If the temperature inside the container gets too warm, the batteries will erupt in flames. Lithium fires are not extinguished by water. The fire suppression plan cited 2 water hydrants as fire suppression. Toxic waste is a problem. 20% of the lithium, according to these experts, cannot be recharged after 8 to 10 years and would become waste. Lithium cannot be recycled. That's 220 containers of lithium that cannot be recycled and are waste. We are concerned about the cost and availability of fire insurance for our residents who live within a half mile of this proposed facility and the effect on property values. The cities of San Juan Capistrano and Laguna Niguel have added information to their websites to alert people to the location and the danger of lithium battery storage facilities. We are encouraging our residents to send comments to the CEC and request they deny this permit. We recommend San Clemente consider alerting your residents to these facilities and asking them to comment to the CEC. We do not want these facilities near residential communities or in recreational areas. Further, we do not want the CEC to overrule decisions made by our well-run cities. They would do this to San Clemente. Please join our effort. Thank you.
Just a reminder to the public is we can't respond to these comments, but we're perfectly aware of that and are monitoring it here in San Clemente.
Thank you. You are unique among many South Orange County cities, and I have given you my presentation.
Thank you.
Mike Kay, followed by Rebecca Barnes, followed by Lois McNichol.
Council members, Mayor, first, thank you so much for all that you do. Your volunteers, you put up with so much, you give so much. It's easy to forget that sometimes, and I have nothing but respect for everybody up there. We are a unique city, San Clemente, and we are a special place, but we have some problems. We have a big fire that just broke out. Whenever that does, my PTSD gets worked up. As you know, my house burned down in a fire, and when I see these events and I see our town, I worry that we have canyons here that can burn, that we have wild areas nearby that can burn, that we have too much fuel, that we are stuck structurally with a relationship from the excellent folks at OCFA who nonetheless weren't able to save those towers in only 40-mile-an-hour winds in a fire that broke out at 1 o'clock. They weren't able to save the 10 homes in Laguna 2 years ago. They'll tell you, we can put out any fire of 10 acres, we'll be okay. Not at 60, 70-mile-an-hour winds. Above 40 miles an hour, the tankers can't even fly. And at night, we don't even know that fire started. My fire hit at night. There was no warning. And I was a firefighter. I never got called out. Our fire station burned. So did our cell phone towers. We had no communications. Our town is exposed. We have fires to the east of us. We have fires to the north of us. We will have fires here. And I worry a lot about it. There's only one way to really deal with it, and that is prevent the fuel loads from getting big enough to take out our houses. Laguna Beach had Goat Day recently. They have 3 goat herds. 2 of them will be available next week. The costs are $650 an acre. What if we called Laguna Beach? We said we'd like to try a pilot project with some goats. What if you brought your herd down just for a couple weeks on some San Clemente government property and we just saw how it worked, tried it out, see what the people think? It's not that crazy. Anyway, I do worry about our exposure to wildfire. We've seen it firsthand. We know we have excellent firefighting resources with OCFA, but we also know that they cannot use their heavy equipment. Those fantastic Firehawk helicopters can't fly in 40-mile-an-hour winds, and they only drop 1,000 gallons of water anyway. So something that big could rage. If they can't save those towers, those are critical communication towers. They were in use for VFA, UHF. They're used for FM radio transmission, 800, 900 megahertz emergency communications, and we couldn't save them. So they're not going to save our houses in the south either. It's not going to happen. So we know where the fires are. We have the fire maps. It's the historic same fire over and over. We have a nice fire break on the south side of town, but we need to thin out the brush.
Thank you.
Lois McNichol, Rebecca Barnes, followed by, is Rebecca Barnes here? Are you speaking under oral communications? Yours? That's probably the zoning issue. Okay, got it. I'll put it on under that agenda item. So it's Lois McNichol, followed by Tyler Bowden, followed by Mary Herron. Lois?
Well, I would like to speak about first a public safety issue that was brought to the council's attention and mine, and that was the thistles, because it scared me when that man said that that coyotes were coming down and actually chasing down children to eat them as food. And I am assuming that the council is monitoring the situation, is going to do something about it, because these thistles seem to take over wherever they go. That is one issue. The other issue is something I'm not sure everybody knows about, and that's AB 1955. So we have to be aware that teachers and any educators are no longer able to inform parents if their child is in the process of social transitioning. So therefore, if they start using different pronouns or want to use different pronouns at school, the teacher will not inform the parents, cannot inform the parents. So that's another thing that I believe really needs to be, that parents need to be aware of that. Now, speaking at city council meetings, it's not a disruption. This is covered by free speech. Thank you.
Tyler Bowden, followed by Mary Herron, followed by George A.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tyler Bowden, and I'm just coming in to put the word out about the Coastal Cleanup Day that's happening this Saturday. I've been putting posters around Del Mar today, and this is an event that the city sponsors, so obviously you all know about it, but I just want to put the word out to the community. So we'll have cleanup locations at the pier and at T Street. It starts at 9 a.m. on Saturday, and we'll be down there until noon. It's really a cool event because it's an international cleanup day, so it happens across the world. So my Rotary Club is participating. I know Aaron Washington will be down there with me, and now that I said that, he has to be down there with me. Susan Ambrose will be there, and a bunch of people, and we recruit the students from our local service clubs at high schools across the county to participate in this. So anybody in the community that's interested, please participate. And I also have a couple of posters, so if anyone in the audience would like one, feel free. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great project.
Mary Herron, followed by George A., followed by Linda M. Mary?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mary Herron, and my colleagues and I live in Orange County and are volunteers with the United Sovereign Americans. We are not spokespersons. United Sovereign Americans USA is a nationwide organization with thousands of active volunteers in over 20 states. Today we come to you as concerned citizens sharing alarming information about our state's voter roll database. Research of the state voter database was done through hundreds of hours of research conducted by highly qualified and credentialed data teams. An analysis of the 2022 election researched by the highly qualified data teams using only official data provided by the California election officials indicates serious issues with compliance of federal law. We are here to present to you, the public, the results of the aforementioned analysis showing the voters cast, counted, and certified showing the votes cast, counted, and certified may not all be valid and accurate under the Constitution, under the law. We are not here to cast any blame or aspersions on any elected official. We do not suggest any candidate in any race has wrongly won or lost their race, nor do we advocate for the overturning or rerunning of any past elections. Tonight, we will present to you with a resolution demanding an end to the inaccuracy and uncertainty plaguing our elections, along with a summary of our findings and the laws that apply. Though you bear no direct responsibility for anything in the electoral process, we come to you, our closest elected representatives, for support and action. We're asking that you listen to the resolution and take the necessity for a valid election seriously by adding that resolution to your next meeting agenda. Thank you. Our next three speakers will read the resolution in three parts, and our final speaker will conclude our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
George A.
Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is George A. I am here to read into the record the first portion of the USA Resolution. Resolution for a legally valid 2024 general election. Whereas it is a recognized civil right in the United States for every citizen to have a free and fair elections. Whereas it is the duty of our election officials to guarantee our elections are accurate and free from distortion and manipulation. Whereas our constitutional system of representative government only works when the following four tenets of an election are upheld. 1. The voter rolls must be accurate. National Voter Registration Act 1993. 2. Votes counted must be from eligible voters. U.S. Constitution, 14th Amendment, Section 2. 3. The number of votes counted must be equal to the number of voters who voted. 4. There can be no more than 1 in 125,000 ballots in error by the voting system. Help America Vote Act 2002. Whereas the analysis of the California 2022 general election has uncovered evidence of massive inaccuracies that appear to violate both federal and state laws, including 5,886,198 ineligible or uncertain registration violations found within the California Stater Voter Roll database. 2,776,939 votes cast by ineligible or uncertain registrations. 123,785 more votes counted than voters who voted. No one knows who cast them. 2,776,849 apparent voting violations in excess of legal standards of system accuracy for valid federal election. Maximal allowable system errors for the 2022 election, general election was 90. Thank you.
Linda M., followed by Lynn B., followed by Lisa H.
Hello, my name is Linda, and I'm here to read into the record the next section of the USA Resolution. Certification as defined by law is an attestation of accuracy and compliance. The certification of the 2022 election appears to have been fraudulent and illegal. Whereas these findings trample legal accuracy requirements of the voting system during a federal election. Whereas the intent of the voters must be known factually before certification can be lawfully conducted. Whereas the 2022 general election appears to have been invalid, depriving us of the guaranteed protection of our natural rights under a government duly and provably chosen by us, the American people, resulting in incalculable damage to our families, our way of life, and the fabric of these United States. Therefore, we call upon our representatives to provide relief to the people and the assurance of domestic tranquility by joining us in demanding a valid 2024 general election that upholds these existing laws and equitable principles of law. Number one, proof of citizenship. Identity and eligibility required to register and vote, not anonymous attestation. 2, voter rolls certified accurate and available for public review and challenged 30 days before the start of early voting. Voters added after that date must bring proof of citizenship, identity, and address in person to a qualified official at each polling place. 3, hand-marked secure ballots similar to currency. Where imaging technology is used for tabulation, the security features must be verifiable in the ballot image. 4, systems, machines, security measures, infrastructure, and conduct are required to be compliant with federal law for fraud prevention regarding risk assessment, certification, testing, and implementation. Thank you.
Lynn B., followed by Lisa H.
My name is Len B. I'm here to read into the record the last section of the USA resolution. She left off with number 4. Number 5, continuing, adjudication must be signed off by party candidate and trained witness, citizen witness, after being given full and effective observation rights. Candidates and trained citizens must be allowed immediate access to ballot images, and cast vote records. Number 6, ballots regardless of entry source, election operations, and systems must maintain end-to-end chain of custody, from voter to vote count to final canvass, including auditability and witness transfer with paper records. Number 7, a National Institute of Standards and Technology compliant, randomized to statistically valid end-to-end audit with a 95% confidence level of all elections pursuant to the 14th Amendment, Section 2, must be performed. These audits are to be conducted by qualified, insured, and bonded security, forensics, or financial auditors, not personnel from within the election system. Reconciliation will include the vote count, real physical ballots, adjudication, cast vote records, ballot count, qualified voter count, custody transfer, and all other paper and electronic election systems, including logs. Number 8, if the total of unique variances above is more than 10% of the margin of victory, a new election must be held in the state for those candidates affected, unless the issues can be provably corrected by a manual count, hand recount, and a full review of records. Finally, number 9, waiver of requirements is not allowed. Only end-to-end system compliance from registration through certification can guarantee the intent of the people is accurately recorded. Be it resolved that the San Clemente City Council members stand in support with the concerns and remedies presented herein. We implore the Orange County Board of Supervisors, California Legislature, federal legislators, law enforcement, federal and state prosecutors, judges, and both California Secretary of State and County Registrars of Voters to cooperate and fulfill these firm requests of the people. Thank you so much.
Lisa H., followed by Amy Talixon.
Hi, my name is Lisa, and I'm here to conclude our presentation. What you heard tonight is a powerfully written resolution outlining massive inaccuracies in our 2022 election, from registration through certification. The resolution delineates meaningful remedies that will proactively protect the validity of the 2024 general election for all Americans. Your written copy cites U.S. Supreme Court precedents and federal and constitutional mandates that support the need for such actions. Large numbers of Californians have questions about the trustworthiness of our elections. Official data show these concerns are valid, and the law says resolving them is essential in securing our liberty. The cost for not fixing the enumerated problems is immeasurable, so we must urge you, put this resolution on the agenda for the next City Council meeting, where you can vote to join us in support of fair, honest, valid elections. The United Sovereign Americans website showcases our initiatives nationwide and features some extremely informative election videos. We encourage you to visit uniteforfreedom.com and learn more about our organization and our goal to restore valid elections throughout our country. That's unite4freedom.com. One more time, unite4freedom.com. There's my time. So what is the ask exactly? We're asking that since there's only 3 meetings between now and the election day, that you make a motion to put this on the agenda. And I have resolution copies for each of you and your clerk. And ideally, it could be voted on at the next city council meeting or the one after that. I am a volunteer, not a spokesperson for United Sovereign Americans, but I will get you whatever answers you need. I'm going to leave my card as well. And we really, really hope that you will look at this, and we want to know that you, our elected officials, stand with us, the citizens of San Clemente, and the Constitution. Thank you.
Amy Talixon, followed by Amanda Quintanilla, followed by Lisa Edone.
Rick, Chris, hi, how you guys doing? Hey, I'm down here for a different reason, but I thought I would just raise the issue since I am down here and I don't come very often. I am currently on the board of the San Clemente Girls Softball League. The city has raised our permit fees for fields, and they've also added a per registrant fee for our girls that play. All of that's fine. We certainly want great fields. The problem is you guys are hitting us on both ends. We also can't advertise anywhere around the city without paying either the city an exorbitant amount on Del Mar to hang a banner. We're not allowed to put up yard signs anywhere that people can see them. And there's no ability for us to advertise registration in Talega. When I drive through Ladera Ranch and some of our other cities, I see that they have large registration signs placed in areas that are clearly being sanctioned by the city in order to advertise that registration. Specifically for girls softball, our main fields are Steed, which is tucked out of the way, and back at Tierra Grande, which is also out of the way. We don't get any kind of homegrown advertising like boys baseball does by playing at Vista Hermosa when individuals drive by. It would be really nice if the city could help us help you, help us get our enrollment up so that we can continue to afford to offer girls softball in this city. We offer it really, really low because it's one of the only nonprofit girls sports in the city. We'd like to continue to do that. So if you guys could give that some thought and engage us on that, we would really like to work with you. Thank you.
Amanda Quintanilla, followed by Lisa Edone.
Hello, council members. At the last city council meeting, I didn't speak, and I was hoping for an OCTA update. I attended the OCTA's Regional Transportation Planning Committee and the OCTA board meeting on September 9th. Both meetings, there was discussion about jurisdictional problems with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Coastal Commission. Unless there is a disruption with rail service, there will not be any emergency permits granted. The OCTA was planning to place sand as sand mitigation on our beaches. However, there have been delays with that. And the OCTA was trying to piggyback using the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers site in Huntington Beach. However, both the Coastal Commission and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are stating that they do need a full EIR. So that is a delay from 1 to 1.5 years in doing so. So the OCTA is working with the Army Corps of Engineers for a viable permitting process, either the Regional General Plan 63 or the National Wide Permit, which is an NWP 13, that's what it's called. And the concern is that, that was raised by Supervisor Foley, was that there is a threshold that requires anyone to have a full EIR. So as of today, I spoke with the OCTA staff, and they have no idea what that threshold is. And should be a standard, a standard number of how much cubic yards of sand requires sand under the NWP 13 permit. So I am hopeful that the OCTA staff and we'll look into that and get back with the members of the public to find out what way, an easy way to permit or place sand on our beaches. So they are working hard at that, and I hope that they could come up with a solution. Thank you. And then one more thing, thank you for mentioning about the 9/11. And I know it was Commander Aaron Washington and myself who raised this issue last year to do something for 9/11. And I'm glad that the city manager and city staff did that. I think that's really great to honor those who perished on 9/11. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Lisa Udon.
Laura, I don't need my video, okay? I'd like to speak to you all about the RV invasion again. And I'd like to request that OCSD and code, where appropriate, routinely patrol the areas where there are a number of vehicles that consistently park for more than 4 hours, which is against city code, and write the tickets. It's cars, it's vans, it's RVs. And to piggyback on what Mike Kay said, some of the RVs use open flame cooking. They have generators on the back of their vehicles right next to brush. So especially given what just happened with, the horrendous brush fires in Orange County and Riverside County, I'd encourage, if there's any way that we can make this happen, OCSD as well as code, to do routine patrols around the areas. And if you'd like the areas listed out, it's Calle Presidente, it's Calle Los Molinos over by the former pickup sticks, it's down by the beach, it's San Clemente Business Park. There are a number of different hotspots where people aren't paying attention to the parking rules. And I don't care what the vehicles are. It should be uniformly enforced with every single vehicle, but I'm particularly concerned with open flame cooking and decrepit shared generators and so forth, because just one spark and up it goes. So I'm worried about that, and I hope that you can give it some of your immediate attention for our protection. Thank you all.
No more public comments. Next item on the agenda is motion waiving reading in full of all resolutions and ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember and Mayor Pro Tem Enmeyer, second by Councilmember Leffler. And we will start our voting. Carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is consideration of agendizing items requiring immediate action. Okay, there was no closed session report this evening. City Attorney, do you have any closed session reports on previous closed session items?
No, there's no report, thank you.
Staff communications, we have Public Works Director Dave Riebensdorf here to give a staff presentation, followed by Community Development Director Adam Atamian.
Welcome. This is the presentation.
It's going to be very brief. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Dave Riebensdorf, Public Works Director.
Chris Duncan already did a nice overview of the event, but what I did want to do is at least acknowledge the public works staff, maintenance staff that was out there in the wee hours of the morning installing the bunting up and down the stairs. It was a somber, fun event for staff to climb the DeHay Beach steps to commemorate the public service members and people that lost their lives on that fateful day. So with that, I'll entertain any questions, but thank you.
I know they had to get up pretty early in the morning. I think they deserve this recognition. I think.
You're muted.
Oh.
Oh, there you are. There you go.
When did this process all start that morning? Just
about 3 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah, it was early.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. And do we know how many participants that we had? And I know a lot of city employees also.
Yeah, we had, I know we had 10 staff members that installed the bunting, and I'm not sure, probably close to 40 members of staff that participated. There were some folks from the public also that walked the stairs, and I think there were close to 22, maybe 24 staff that completed the full 19 steps. So it was a really nice event.
Over 50,000 steps.
50,000
Over
steps?
50,000 steps were done that day.
We had a lifeguard that ran the whole thing?
We had a couple lifeguards, a couple public works staff that ran the whole thing.
All right.
Yeah,
It was
That's
impressive.
Yeah.
Credit to the maintenance staff. I mean, these folks do all these things that people, really appreciate in town but don't notice. And a lot of times it's because they do stuff in the morning. So please pass on the thanks to them. That's just incredible work. And the lifeguards finished it. They weren't even breaking a sweat. Brian Brower and I were dying at the end.
All right.
Yeah, great work. Please pass on the thanks, Dave.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Next, Adam?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My update tonight is in regards to some public comments that we've received related to thistles growing in the open space areas. Since the last City Council meeting, I've been working with our weed abatement contractor to assess the city's areas and identify a plan to address those in the before the next growing season. There is also a lot of open space. In fact, the majority of the open space in the city is privately owned, that the city does not have direct responsibility for. However, we are putting together some information to establish an education and outreach campaign to work with those HOA responsible properties to help them address these issues as well. This is not a new issue. It has come to light that other cities in South Orange County have worked to deal with this issue over the years and decades. And one of the fundamental problems with it is that the seeds can travel a great distance. And so it really requires a large buy-in from adjacent property owners and adjacent areas. And so as far as the city's concerned, we will do what we can to address the city's city-owned properties and work with the private property owners to help address the larger areas of private open space where these thistles are occurring. So that's my update for now, and I'm
I
able
do
to
have a
answer any
question for city property that we maintain and are responsible for. Can you explain the process that we go through for trying to clear that out in advance? And I'm told we go cut it early as best we can.
So the city has a vegetation management program that covers a few things. One is our weed abatement program. That is specifically related to private property that is either vacant or has a structure that is unoccupied. And the purpose there is that the weeds and debris that may exist on those types of vacant lots be cleared on a yearly basis. In addition to that, our weed abatement contractor, under that contract, also addresses city-owned properties to clear out overgrown vegetation. And then finally, we also have a program where we work with the Orange County Fire Authority to address the defensible space guidelines as it affects structures that are existing around city-owned property. The city does not clear-cut the open space areas. They're meant to be maintained as open space vegetation. However, there are some invasive species that we will need to address on some type of periodic basis. This is an issue along with like mustard plant where it comes up and in some years it's worse than others. And so as far as this issue is concerned, we're working on a program to address the thistle on the city-owned property in the coming months.
So the fires all over Southern California has also raised concerns about, and I think rightfully so for San Clementians, and their insurance. I know a lot of the insurance companies for homeowner and property have abandoned California and just simply don't insure here, but which is raising people actually people have come to me and said, hey, because of all this brush, our insurance company says they won't insure our house anymore, or they've doubled or sometimes even tripled the price. Are we taking all that into consideration when we think about what we need to clear near homes on city property?
Yes, I mean, ultimately, fire protection is part of the city's goal in all of this. What helps the most with the wildland interface, where I'll say mostly the ranch properties, Talega, Forster Ranch, Rancho San Clemente, abut naturally vegetated areas, are the fuel modification plans that were required by the Orange County Fire Authority, which are reviewed on a periodic basis to ensure that the vegetation remains in compliance with those plans to reduce the risks of fire to those areas. OCFA has their own defensible space program that they carry out every year. As part of the weed abatement program, the city does have a part in that, but that is entirely run by the Orange County Fire Authority. For some problematic areas or properties, the city will get involved if the Orange County Fire Authority is not able to get the compliance that they need, but that program is overseen entirely by OCFA.
Just so I better understand, do you interface then with Orange County Fire to make sure, because I think the homes that people I have talked to about it are in Talega, adjacent to that open space that are concerned and that have had the problem with their insurance. So
Yes.
do you, as your office interfaces with OCFA and other entities to make sure that we have the defensible protection?
Yes, we work with OCFA regularly throughout the year on these issues.
Okay. You also have heard at previous meetings and even tonight about the idea of using what other cities are doing, some animals. Have we ever looked at that as for its viability, or?
I know that issue has been looked into in the past. I don't recall off the top of my head why that was not taken up, but I do know that the council has discussed that in years ago. But recently, I don't think that issue has gained much traction.
All right. Any of my colleagues have?
How many acres of actual city property do you think we're talking about for mitigation of brush or thistles?
I'll say in the area that would be of the highest concern would be the area behind the target, which is about 360-ish acres.
And that's city property?
And that's all city property. But there's probably, I want to say 1,200 to 1,500 acres of privately owned open space as well.
No, I don't have any questions, but I think we probably have an opportunity if there are a couple of teams of animals, goats that are in our community, in our county, in our neighboring cities. And it'd be nice to have a pilot program where for a few $100s, we cordon off a a few canyons and kind of see what happens. I understand that the artificial artichoke thistles, that the goats love them, so that might be a double whammy there for fire mitigation as well as the thistle problem.
Yeah, so in relation to the program that I'm working with our weed abatement contractor on, I'm more than happy to further explore the use of goats. One thing that did occur to me, in the past, I do remember there being some concerns about the use of goats and their, in how they take care of the vegetation, that they potentially can destabilize certain slopes because they can affect the root structure of plants that help hold that in place. But I can incorporate all of that research into a program and come back to the council at a future time with some recommendations on best practices.
I think that'd be a good idea. I don't know that we need to agendize it, but I think it's a program that's simple, it's easy, it's here, and it'd be nice to at least explore that option.
Yeah, I think we'll just.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is public hearing. The public hearing process includes a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. Following closure of the public hearing, the city council will respond to questions raised during the hearing, discuss the issues, and act upon the matter by motion. And your one public hearing for this evening is consideration of a resolution approving the 2023-24 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, CAPER, for expenditure of community development block grant funds.
All right, so we're going to open the public meeting.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council, Adam Matamian, Community Development Director. This item is an annual report that is presented to the council for their consideration, review, and approval related to our community development block grant program. Ultimately, the entire program is covered under a 5-year consolidated plan. That consolidated plan requires an annual action plan to be presented to the council and then forwarded to the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development. And that report is presented in April. This year, you did see that report. However, what is being presented today is the second part of that action, which is the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, or CAPER, which covers the actions that were presented in the annual action plan. This report covers the annual action plan period that was presented to the council last April. And so this, at the end of the fiscal year, we are summarizing the activities of the last fiscal year and presenting them for council's consideration. So during the 2023-24 reporting period, the city received $314,259 in CDBG funds. In addition to that, there were $81,679 in prior year uncommitted funds and $45,145.56 in program income. The report that's attached identifies how that money was utilized. Additionally, the CAPER does require a 15-day comment period. That was noticed in the San Clemente Times, and that requirement has been met. Some of the accomplishments over the past year included a multi-phased reconstruction of 4 historical water fountains at Maxburg Park. In the first year, some historic review and analysis has been going on, and we anticipate the fountains being restored in this current fiscal year. Additionally, CDBG funding was allocated to support various public service programs, and during the 23-24 fiscal year, service providers assisted 2,754 residents through services funded by CDBG. The report provides more information summarizing the activity, and then the complete CAPER is attached for your review. One thing to note, the CAPER does report that the city leveraged CDBG funds during this reporting period. $293,827 in permanent local housing allocation funds were used to support activities consistent with the consolidated plan goals. And these services were for homeless outreach services provided by the community's outreach team. At this point, staff is recommending that the council conduct the public hearing, and then following the public hearing, adopt Resolution 24-141, which will approve and adopt the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, which staff can then submit to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
We do not have any public comments on this item.
Do we close the public comment?
Yes, we close the public hearing,
Then
yes.
we'll have either a motion or discussion.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
24-141.
141, that we adopt resolution number 24-141.
Second?
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's take a vote. Your reports are obviously very thorough and lengthy. But we've gone through it before this meeting.
That vote carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Yes, next item on the agenda is consideration of a resolution to increase the amount of sand being placed on North Beach due to cost savings within the North Beach Emergency Sand Replacement Project, CIP, project number 14901, and reallocating these savings to increase the construction contingency from 10% to 19%.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Dave Rubensdorf, Public Works Director. The sand placement at North Beach, hopefully you've seen some of the photos and video, has been proceeding very well for the 30,000 cubic yards. What staff is recommending this evening is that the city council increase the project contingency from 10% to 19%, which will allow staff to issue a change order for the placement of an additional 7,000 cubic yards of sand from the Santa Ana River basin based on its availability. And really, we've been able to receive these cost savings in the project. That's due to GCI, local contractor, their means and methods in placing sand. They're well ahead of schedule. The anticipated project duration was 90 days, which the contractors asked for, and they're going to complete this 30,000 cubic yards within 45 days. So what that's allowed is a big savings in some of the railroad fees for flagmen, and also for project management currently being done by staff. And so all the additional 7,000 cubic yards can be provided within the overall project budget due to those savings. And that's the end of my presentation. Yeah.
All right. Do we have any?
We do not have any public comments.
I have a couple of questions. Then there's a couple things I wanted to just clarify. A lot of the fees, a lot of the cost savings for this project was we're required to have railroad staff stand there, and anytime one of those trucks comes by to stop the truck, so that despite the fact we have railroad crossing guards and everything else, it's just a requirement of the state.
That is a requirement of the, I don't know if it's a state, but I think it's a federal requirement in the event that one of the vehicles gets stuck on the railroad tracks. So that way they can come. But
Getting the project done in a quick amount of time saved us a lot of money.
We received one bill for the first month, and it was about $39,000 in flagman fees.
All right, it's expensive.
From OCTA, yes, it was expensive.
So we also save money, by doing it right now, we save a lot of money because there's a lot of costs and expenses already expended for the tracks and the crossing that we had to build, and that's a significant savings also.
Yeah, we have shoring in place, so that certainly helps. And then we had staff that city staff that's doing the project management and inspection rather than farming that out. So that saves some costs as well.
All right.
This is, oh,
You don't mind going through some of the numbers for me? How much more are we spending to do this? And then what's the cost per cubic yard? What's our bang for our buck here that we're getting at? Why is this worthwhile to do this more in terms of actual numbers?
So it's costing, to put in about another 7,000 cubic yards, we're looking at about $240,000. So it comes out to about $34 a cubic yard. If we were to stop the project now, the estimated cost for the project is, I have it here somewhere, bear with me. $1,712,100, and divide that by 30,000. I'm sorry I didn't do that, but I can.
Yeah. There's just efficiencies and continuing a few more weeks.
it's almost $10
Yeah, you're-
$10 a cubic yard cheaper than the current cost.
You don't have the mobilization, you don't have to install the shoring, all the permits are in place, so it's,
So this is a huge.
and the surveying, so.
So bottom line here, we're getting huge savings for our community by continuing and stepping this up for 7,000 more cubic yards as opposed to waiting till next season when we would have to start all over again.
That's correct. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think this is an exciting proposition. We're getting 25, 30% more sand. We're not increasing our budget. I got to commend the city for taking on the management and oversight rather than hiring a contractor. It's been one of my pet peeves in city contracting for many years, so I'm excited to hear that. I'm also real pleased that our local contractor, GCI, is performing so well. They're well ahead of schedule. The operation down there looks like a precision military operation with those dozens of trucks coming in and out like a ballet. They really are doing a phenomenal job, and I'm just very excited about the opportunity to get an extra 7,000 cubic yards where we need it most in North Beach. So I'm ready to support this when the time comes.
Just a quick point.
Go ahead.
And I think this may have been covered, but I just want to make sure. This is the most sand we could get too, right? Like, we're getting whatever we can get.
That's correct. After this, hopefully we get up to 7,000 cubic yards. It might end up being 5 or 6, but the county is running out of sand, at least at this point in time, with their stockpile. So we're going to take all that's available.
Yes, okay. I just want to make that point clear. Great.
I also want to make the point here, one of the reasons we're able to get this sand is because, can you explain the scoop permit here and whether we needed to use the scoop permit or not to get the sand, and going forward for years in the future, what that will look like?
I don't know if I want to pass that off to Leslie or.
Yeah, let's,
Or Mr.
or
Manager?
city manager.
Yeah, we are using some of the elements of our previous scoop permit because it provided kind of the framework for what we needed to do. But this work that's being done is actually being done with a waiver from the Coastal Commission. We did not do this with our scoop permit. It has not been updated yet. We're in that process. I think you know we're in the process right now of obtaining our scoop permit. That'll take probably another several months and about $600,000 more dollars. But we are on the way. And this is the kind of product, though, and the kind of project that you can anticipate seeing in the future when we have a scoop permit. That's why it becomes very, very important. So when the sand becomes available, we've already got the permits in place. We can move very quickly and get sand on the beach. That's the importance of the scoop permit.
So, quick question, follow-up question on this. So that is going to cost about $600,000 to get a scoop permit in the future, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so, and if
Scoop program, several permits.
several
Yes.
permits, yes. Just making this point here, if a measure does not pass coming up on the ballot, would the city still be able to find resources to do these scoop permits and projects like this in the future?
Well, we would.
Just from an educational point of
Yeah,
view.
we would continue to have to rely on some of our partners. We'd have to try to find either federal grants, state grants, county grants. We wouldn't have the resources readily available to just every time sand becomes available to to jump on that opportunity.
Thank you.
We just learned we have a speaker
do have-
card that was submitted,
Oh.
and we'll get to other members.
Teddy
Unless you
called.
had a question right now, Rick.
Apologies.
No, okay.
I'll wait for Teddy to talk.
Sorry about that. A little bit of administrative confusion.
I might have checked the wrong box. on the
Okay.
phone. Good evening, City Council. This is a really remarkable opportunity that we're faced with here. I think you guys should consider adopting this for two reasons. The first one is we need as much sand as we can get in North Beach. And the second one is this is a really inspiring example of a government project coming in under budget. And we have the opportunity now to add even more sand for no additional cost and show the public just how efficient the city can be with these types of programs. We have a ballot measure coming up that's really important, and I think this will really help show the public how efficient you guys are as a council, how efficient the staff and bidding project is, and it's just an incredible opportunity. Really exciting to see. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. And I will also say, unless you have something else, is, it is through the hard work of, the city has done through Andy and our coastal administrator that we've been working on those relationships with the people that issue those permits and have, in this case, got an emergency permit to put that sand there, which saved us a lot of time and expense just because of the emergency nature of this. And hopefully we can do a little bit more of that in the future, but we're working all those angles out right now. But if there's anything else,
I'm really excited.
I am. I think it's a great project. If anyone has had the opportunity to go down to North Beach, I had some photos taken of it for a presentation. It's amazing, and as my colleagues said, watching them work and the machinery, it's also a work of art to see them moving in and out, almost like a ballet, with this big machinery moving that sand. And the times I've been out there's been a number of people now using that beach that were never there before because of the rocks. So
I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 24-142.
I'll second.
All right. All right.
Carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is update on the United States Army Corps of Engineers Shoreline Protection Project. Next steps in the process and consideration of additional financial commitment to complete the initial phase of the project. And we have Leslie Meyerhoff here to present.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here tonight to present an update to you on the Army Corps of Engineers project. I've got a brief presentation that I'll provide, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions after that. Also here tonight is Doland Chung, who's the project manager for the LA District Army Corps of Engineers. So if you have questions for him, I'm sure he'd be happy to address those as well. So as most of you know, this project is a partnership with not only the Army Corps of Engineers, but also California State Parks. This is a 50-year beach sand project with replenishment cycles every 5 to 6 years over the 50-year lifetime. For each nourishment event, the dredger will dredge approximately 251,000 cubic yards of sand and place 200,000 cubic yards on the beach. The project footprint is generally from Linda Lane on the north to T Street on the south, and is about 3,200 linear feet. The project is designed to create a 50-foot wide beach berm, and again, it's centered on the city pier. In this graphic, you can see in the red dashed highlight the project footprint. So as most of us recall, the project did start in November of last year with the dredge pipeline landing. That was the first event signaling that the project was getting underway. In January, we halted the project because we were very unhappy with the material that was being delivered to the beach. It was not the beach quality sand that we were expecting, it was cobble. So we worked to develop a new source of sand, and we're utilizing the Surfside Sunset Borrow site in northern Orange County. So once we obtained the additional permits for that site and the necessary environmental reviews for that, we brought the contractor back, and they placed 114,000 cubic yards of sand between a 25-day period at the end of April and the end of May of this year. They had to leave because the contractor had to leave because they had another project that was already planned, and they were under contract to complete that. So they left the city with the promise to come back and place the remaining 86,000 cubic yards of sand. So we recently met with the Army Corps of Engineers, as Mayor and other council members alluded to, and we've been informed that the dredge company, Manson, has their West Coast hopper dredge, the Bayport, which has been here in San Clemente, it will become available at the end of October, mid-October, end of October. It will be completing its project and will be available to come back to San Clemente to complete the project. So the goal of the city is, of course, to complete the project to the satisfaction of the city. That's also the Army Corps goal, too. So we share that goal. The Army Corps is asking for additional funding, and that's really why we're here tonight, to talk about this additional request for funds. The additional fees are related to several things. One is that the borrow site that we're now using is further away than the original borrow site, and so the additional distance that the dredge has to travel is resulting in an increase per cubic yard cost. In addition to that, we have the dredge coming back with a need to remobilize again. Obviously, they took their pipeline, they took their construction staging, they took all of their equipment away. So in order to restart the project, we would pay for them to mobilize back to San Clemente. So the options that are laid out for you in the staff report are summarized here on the screen. There's really three options that we're laying out. One is to authorize the city manager to send the Army Corps a letter saying that we intend to complete the project, complete the initial event, and the additional cost share requirement, which is 35%, which is estimated at $2.6 million. That would bring approximately 86,000 cubic yards of sand to the city to complete the project to our satisfaction. That's the first option. The second option is to direct staff to work with the Army Corps to determine whether the goals and objectives of the project have essentially been satisfied, and we work together to deem the project complete. Under that scenario, we would then begin looking forward to the next renourishment event, which would be 4, 5, or 6 years out. The third option is, of course, for you to provide alternative direction to staff. It is the staff recommendation that you authorize the city manager to send the Army Corps a letter indicating the city desires to complete the project and will contribute the additional cost share that's being requested, which is a 35% match. And just to clarify, the Army Corps would, if the city gives a thumbs up tonight and says we would like to continue with the project, the Army Corps would then issue the RFP to Manson. They would provide a bid and bring that back to the city. That concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Do you want to take, well, let's hear from the speaker.
Teddy Kahn?
Hello again, Council. This time I'm reading a statement on behalf of Bring Back Our Beaches that just expands on some of the reasons why this type of program is so valuable to our city. U.S. beach tourists generate $3,000 in economic output $1,400 in direct spending and $200 in taxes for every $1 spent on beach replenishment. That's a phenomenal return. Beach tourists generate $36 billion in taxes every year, 4 times the amount spent on nourishment over the last 100 years. Our beaches are threatened primarily by armoring and damming of creeks and rivers, cutting off the flow of sand to the coast. We need to mitigate this impact by replenishing the beaches with sand. There's simply no other way today to bring back our beaches. Recurring sand replenishment replaces that which we've lost. San Clemente is a great candidate for this because our littoral cell resides in an embayment. The economic returns on using sand replenishment to maintain beaches and the coastal economy it supports is undeniable. Approving more sand now not only continues our progress, but also capitalizes on federal subsidies that we cannot afford to miss. Thank you again for your dedication to our city's beaches, and I urge you to commit to completing this phase as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Questions of?
Yeah, I have a question. Based on our current amount that's there, we have, what, about 60% of it placed of, would you say about 110,000 of the 200,000 is placed? Was that the number?
114 is the number that the Army Corps has provided.
So based on that, when winter comes, we see these storm surges come in. Do we have any prediction of how much sand will be lost to the storms coming in with that amount, as opposed to a percentage that would be lost if we had the full 200,000 placed?
I wasn't sure if you were going to take that, Mr. City Manager. I can tell you that the sand is intended to reach what they call an equilibrium profile, so it will spread out to the north and south and offshore a little bit too, so it ends up being a larger footprint, depending on how much wave energy we get. If it's a north swell or a south swell, the sand will move. That's partly why we do our shoreline monitoring program, just so we can see the signals in the sand profiles to kind of understand how the sand is moving in the system. Obviously, the more sand you have, the better. And so I think that's the context where we're looking to put as much sand as we can on the beach this year with the opportunity before us.
Can you explain that a little bit more in detail? The more sand we have, the better. Why is it better?
Well, the sand functions as a natural buffer. So the sand receives the wave energy and diffuses it so that the waves hit the beach sand as opposed to the bluffs or the railroad tracks, in this case, revetment. So it really disperses the energy. That's the natural function of a beach. So if you have a wider beach, you have more diffusion of winter storm waves primarily. And that's, again, this is a coastal storm damage reduction project, and that's the primary goal, is to not only provide recreational benefit, but also shoreline protection and sandy beach habitat as well.
So by making this project go to completion, we would have even less wave energy impacting our beaches, and therefore even less sand being dispersed back into the ocean?
I think that's generally correct. I'm not a coastal engineer, but that is my general understanding of how the beach functions, yes.
Great, thank you.
City Manager?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I understood your question, and I think you clarified it. I think one of the things that we want to be clear about, and this question has also come up many times, is people say, well, there's half the sand that's been delivered, so when the other half of the sand is delivered, will the beach be twice as wide? We want to make sure we're setting the right expectations. The answer is no. As you get further west, the sand is deeper. So even though you're delivering more sand, the beach itself won't extend as quickly, because you just have to put more sand to get that same level, if that makes sense, because of the natural grade of the beach. So I want to make sure I wanted to make sure I understood your question. This wouldn't make the beach twice as wide. It would provide more sand to protect the sand that we've already placed on the beach. So
Excellent.
I don't know if that's a nuance, but I wanted to make sure I
No,
understood your question.
it's really important, and that's why I asked the question. To have that explained, our beaches aren't going to get from the naked eye, our beaches aren't going to get that much substantially bigger, but by having that extra sand, it protects the sand that's already there.
Much better way I said it.
Anything else? Yep.
I just have an observation on the whole issue. It's troubling that we started the project, we thought we had a 200,000 cubic yards with the expectation of a price tag of $15 million. It's now we're looking at 17.6 or perhaps more. And I've said this before, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think we need to think smart about sand. 20 years ago, we began this project, 20 years ago. And here we are, 20 years later, we've got 114,000 cubic yards at a cost of 15, and then another ramp up, potentially more than 2.6. When we consider what we've done in North Beach, we haven't spent 20 years, we spent 2 or 3 months. And we have upwards of we'll have close to 40,000 cubic yards in a precision operation. I don't want to criticize the Army Corps of Engineers. Their job is to win wars and to make sure that the battles are fought properly. Sand on the beach is not their wheelhouse. They've got one contractor, Manson, one contractor. We're at their mercy. So 20 years of work, $17.5 million. We've got a fraction of the sand we need. If we are smarter about it, we can do the SCOOP project and the other opportunities to get the sand. I'm delighted that we're currently contracting with the Coastal Commission grant of $1.5 million to identify sand close to our shore that we can simply dredge and blow back up. Maybe not rainbow is not the right term because you have to get closer to shore, but with 1,000, 1,500 yards of piping, you can take that sand and move it up on the beach very quickly. Incredibly, that's not the right word, amazingly less expensive, astronomically less expensive. The example I use is when we're dealing with the federal government, when NASA sends a rocket up, it's $2 billion. When Elon Musk does it, it's $60 million, 32 times cheaper. So I just think as we go forward in the future, I can see the possibility that the Army Corps project may fade potentially completely if we have other options, less expensive, quicker, and more sand available.
It is.
So I just think as we go forward, I'm delighted at what we've done the last few months. I just think we need to continue to do more of that. Our beaches will be better for it. So those are just my observations.
And I'd like to address them, but I'm not going to address them. I'm going to let Leslie address them. But I'll ask the question to you. Can you explain a little for the general public and for the rest of the council the 4 different projects that we have going on that also bring sand, including the Army Corps, the Sand Ag, our project in North Beach, and the OCTA remediation? 4 separate projects that will bring sand, all at different costs, just so that people understand that Army Corps is not the only project, but also help us understand, it's the second part, how the Army Corps project is an investment, a long-term investment, and how they will provide sand and resources for the next 50 years, and why, depending on your view, whether it's good to keep them in the game as one of those other potential sources of sand. And I don't know which of you can address it, but if we get rid of this project now, we lose that benefit and those resources from the state and the federal contract. So we might be cutting this off too early rather than moving forward, looking at the best alternatives in the future.
Mr. Mayor, I hope you didn't construe my comments as suggesting that we immediately cut off the Army Corps.
Oh, no, not at all. I just wanted to explain the differences in that project. And I think that lastly, the Army Corps also has they have the ability to lay sand on where the city can't, and which is a big difference. So maybe I asked too many questions, but I think it'll help.
I'd be happy to address those. If I may, could I address the second part of your question first, which is why are we doing the Army Corps project? What's so great about this project? What does the Army Corps bring to the table? It's hard to to walk away from the federal investment in this project. So it's a cost-shared project, 65 federal, 35 non-federal, and the city has been the beneficiary of state parks grants over the years, for the past 20 years, where State Parks Division of Boating and Waterways has paid about 85% of the local share. So that has left a smaller increment for the city to come up with, which has been terrific. And that would still be the case for completing the project. The Army Corps would still pay the 65, and then the city would pay the 35. State Parks is not. Oh, I'm sorry, to complete this initial event, thank you for pointing that out. To complete the initial event, it's still 65% federal, 35% non-federal. I think the city manager was going to point out in the future, 5 years from now, and every 5 years thereafter, it's a 50-50 cost split. So the ratio does change. So that's correct. The other projects that we have in the works, Scoop, of course, North Beach, we mentioned that. We are in the process of reactivating all of the previous permits that we had. So that's Coastal Commission, State Lands, Army Corps, and Regional Water Quality Control Board. Those are the 4 permits that we would need under a Scoop program or a Scoop umbrella. And that is where you can place sand. Once it becomes available and provided you have the money in place, you can obtain the sand and bring it to the beach. And all the permits and environmental are done up front. So it's really, it just becomes, but it becomes a cost issue more than anything. So that's Scoop. We've already talked about the Army Corps. Sand Ag Regional Beach Sand Project, we learned, I think 2 weeks ago, that they're proposing about 1 million cubic yards in San Clemente, about 250,000 at North Beach, and about 800,000 at the Pier Bowl and State Beach. So it's just slightly more than 1 million cubic yards. Now, keep in mind that project is in the early planning stages. It's in what's considered feasibility. So we will expect to see a draft report on that in the spring timeframe, spring of '25. That project would then need to go through environmental review and permitting, and then we need to come up with construction funding. All the cities that are participating would need to come up with their fair share contribution. So that's in the works. I'm putting that out 3 to 5 years, probably minimum, in terms of when that would be coming online.
And how much sand?
And how much sand and where this sand would be sourced from.
Okay.
And that would be a dredge or hopper type?
It may be a cutter head suction dredge. It really depends on where the borrow site is, whether it's right offshore or further away. So that would dictate the type of machinery that is brought in for that. And then the other project is the Orange County Transportation Authority project. Their proposal is 540,000 cubic yards, evenly split really between Mariposa Point, their reinforcement area 1 and 2, and their reinforcement area 4, which is State Beach and Cypress Shore area. So that project, as we heard, is still in the early stages as well. It's really conceptual. I understand their engineers are designing the beach fill templates. They're looking at sand sourcing. They may have applied for some of their permits, but that does not appear to be processing in an emergency manner like we were able to do for North Beach. So that's probably a few years out as well.
Okay.
Possibly
All right.
sooner, but
I just wanted
Yes.
my colleagues to have the
Yes.
benefit of the overview of that.
And the bigger picture that we're working towards is this, 5 million cubic yards is what the coastal engineers have said is what is needed from like Dana Point Harbor down to San Mateo Point. So we've lost so much sand over the many decades now where the natural sand supplies have been cut off that we have to make that sand supply up manually. So we're bringing it in from the Santa Ana River, we're looking at sand quarries, we're looking at all manner of inland sources and offshore sources to supplement what Mother Nature would have brought to us.
Chris?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and a worthwhile project, right? We're beach town. We have to do this. This is who we are, and it's existential for the city. So we know that we got nearly $10 million of money appropriated by our Congressman Mike Levin, right, of federal money?
I am not privy to that information. I have to defer to the city manager on that.
So it was about was it 9 million something?
He was able to secure the federal share of that, which is 65% of this first
Right.
tranche.
Okay. But look, we're overtaxed, in my opinion. We're a donor area, right? We pay more taxes than we get back. So we know that we got some state grants, and we got the federal money appropriated. Did we get any state money appropriated from the state government? Our state taxes back reinvested in our community?
We received a grant from Division of Boating and Waterways.
Not a grant, appropriated money like we got from the federal government.
I do not believe so.
Okay. Did we ask our state legislators to help us with this money, this couple $1 million that we need here to get to the second phase of the second part of the first phase?
We have asked.
Okay, and
Yes.
did we get any money from the state?
We have not received any money to my knowledge.
Okay. So now the city has to make up that 2 billion plus money, even though we already paid taxes to the state? Okay. I'm seeing nodding yes. Okay. Well, this is why we're in this, partly why we're in this position, right? To have to continue to lean on our residents for this really important project, and I don't think we should have to do that. But all right, thank you for your great work, Leslie. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
I'd just like to add that the reason probably why we haven't received as much money from the state as we'd like is that they're $70 billion in the red because of the current administration's utter mismanagement of their budget and their resources.
All right. Let's, Rick, do you? Okay. We also have here, and I did want to give him a chance if you want to add anything to this. He's a project manager for the Army Corps and.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm
Olin.
Dolan Chung, project manager of the Corps of Engineers. I didn't plan on speaking. I just was invited to provide support to both Andy and Leslia for any questions to City Council. Just a couple comments, observations from the discussion today. I think, given that you've got a number of other projects going on, I think keeping the core project, if you can, is a good option for you going forward. Reason being is if you do finish initial phase, there is the potential for the subsequent events, which, on average are going to be 5 to 6 years. Each time those are appropriated, we would be executing a PPA, and at that time, you can decide whether you want to continue participating or not. So, my personal opinion is that if you can't afford the sand now, you might want to grab it now because, one, you don't know when that might disappear, opportunity again. And then two, you still have that option for the subsequents that you're not complied to, participate in them.
And that's a question. I think that's the critical point that I was trying to make, at least, is if we don't continue with this project right now, the 20 years that we've invested in this and the 50-year project beyond that and the contribution of the federal government is gone. We would have to start all over with that, what took us 20 years, and it would be a start over, essentially, as opposed to a continuation with options and looking at what we'd be able to get from the federal government. Is that pretty accurate statement?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I think for my colleagues, I think that's the most important thing about this federal project is it gives us the options, to keep moving forward. And without it, the federal options would be off the table.
Is there any discussion? I'd make
I
a
just
motion
have
to,
a question just for clarification. So if we pay the 2.6 million, we're going to get 86,000 cubic yards of sand. Is that the kind of the figure?
Thank you for that question. We're working with estimates right now. The project has not been bid, so we're working on the best estimates that we have, and we will keep the council in the loop. We'll keep you informed as the RFP is responded to by the successful bidder, and as we are able to hone in on what the actual price is. So that's a really good question. These are the best estimates that we have currently.
So, but if we decide to just say that the project was completed, we save the 2.6 million, but we don't get any extra sand, right? So at
That's option two, yeah.
at 86,000 cubic yards at 2.6 million, that's $30 a cubic yard, I guess, about. I mean, I know we think we've already kind of paid for it, but it is around $30, I think, a
Yeah,
cubic
the
yard.
advantage right now is that the federal government is paying for 65% of the cost.
Right,
That's
so
correct.
we're getting, if we were starting fresh, we would
project
love to
alive.
take 30 bucks a square yard. Okay.
I move that we
Thank you, Dolan.
I move we approve staff recommendation, authorize the city manager to send a letter to the Army Corps indicating our desire to complete the initial event as soon as possible and contribute our non-federal cost in the estimated amount of $2.6 million.
I'll second.
All right. So we'll call the question and let's all vote on this.
Carries 5-0.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your briefing.
Okay, Mayor and Council, the next item on the agenda is update of the Conflict of Interest Code and introduction, first reading of an ordinance related to future updates of that code. So before you tonight is a report to allow us to update our Conflict of Interest Code, which designates commission committee members and certain city employees who are required to file Form 700s. This code has been updated to update staff positions as well as add new commission and, new committees to the code that were not previously there. So this report is an introduction of an ordinance and adoption of a resolution. If you don't have any questions, we don't have any staff comments.
No comments, no staff report?
comments.
No, all right. We've all been briefed on it, though, independently, so.
There are no
No
public
public
comments.
So someone want to move it?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to adopt resolution number 24-143.
And is that also introducing ordinance number 1781?
Correct.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read that. And was that a second by Councilmember Noblock?
Yes.
Okay, so introduce ordinance number 1781 entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Clemente, California, amending Chapter 2.24 of the Municipal Code of the City of San Clemente to add Section 2.24.010 relating to the Conflict of Interest Code, and adopt a resolution 24-143 entitled a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Clemente, California, approving and adopting an amended Conflict of Interest Code pursuant to the Political Reform Act of 1974 and repealing resolution number 21-37.
All right.
Councilmember Duncan, did you vote? It didn't show up. There we go. Okay, and that carries 5-0. And we just got to.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item 10C, and this is introduction and first reading of an ordinance establishing citywide posted speed limits and finding the ordinance categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Good evening, council members. Zach Ponson, I'm your assistant city engineer. Tonight, our agenda item is to adopt the first reading of an ordinance to establish our posted speed limits. We do this about approximately every 5 years as regulated by city or state vehicular code and MUTCD regulations. I'll have no presentation, but just a few points, and then I'll have open for questions. But staff's recommending no changes to our current speed limits. Little background is typically speed limits are adopted based on the 85th percentile of the average speeds that are found during field studies. And then there's certain rounding, you can round up or round down based on those speed limits. Our field studies showed that almost all the 85th percentiles were above the posted speed limits. So if we adopted per the 85th percentile, we would actually be raising a lot of speed limits. There are several recent assembly bills that allow cities to justify keeping the existing speed limits, as long as studies are made to show that those streets meet certain criteria to keep them. And so those studies have been made. There are a pretty big list of streets that we're recommending that council make the finding that those streets' posted speed limits would be more than reasonable and safe, and therefore we're going to keep those speed limits as they are. And I'll reiterate, we are not changing any speed limits, and I'm available for any questions.
All right. Questions? Any questions?
Works for me.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Questions, Chris? Nope. All right.
I'll make the motion to introduce and conduct the first reading of ordinance number 1780.
Entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Clemente, California, amending San Clemente Municipal Code, Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 10.16, to establish citywide posted speed limits and finding the action categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, which would maintain all current speed limits.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Loeffler. And, whoops. Hold on.
Oh.
It didn't. Let's do a roll call vote. I'm not sure what happened. That was a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Enmeyer, second by Loeffler, and Councilmember Duncan.
Aye.
Councilmember Loeffler.
Aye.
Councilmember Noblock. Mayor Pro Tem Enmeyer. Mayor Cabral. Carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, let's see here if it resets. Item 10D, consideration of a resolution to initiate a zoning amendment to the San Clemente Municipal Code to enhance development standards related to visitor-serving commercial uses to encourage development that supports the economic development goals of the general plan.
Mr. Mayor, before we have a staff report, could I make a comment?
Absolutely.
Economic development is extremely important going forward, both for quality of life and revenue and revitalization of the city. However, this resolution only talks about one small footprint of the city. And after getting a lot of feedback from the public, I would like to see something come back from staff before we look at this that looks at other areas of the city and possible candidates for revitalization and possible zoning amendments or whatever before we focus on this one small part. I think the public wants this also. I think there was a question of some notice on this. I think if you look at your emails recently, you'll see a lot of concerned residents about this. And I know notice didn't need to go out about this particular issue. I know if we go forward with public hearings and whatever, there would be the notice. But again, I'd like us to have some options on this when we look at something so important as the revitalization and zoning changes in the city, to look at the entire city as a whole instead of one small portion. That's my feeling. Is I'm not really ready to, and that staff report was fine on this. It's just I'd like to expand it. I'm not ready to make a decision on this at this point.
Do we have a public comment on this?
We do have public comments,
How many?
yes. Let's see. Eight public comments.
Public comment. Any of my colleagues have any concerns or?
I think Rick makes a good point that we need to consider other areas as well. I don't know that we need to postpone this designation in order to expand it to include other areas. I clearly think we should do that. I think the Vista Hermosa, of all the areas in town with freeway off-ramps that would be, in my opinion, viable, I think this is the most readily available. It's low-hanging fruit. It's a major intersection with a major potential development. And I'd like to at least consider it with the option that we expand and analyze other locations where it might be appropriate to include in this type of zoning.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, it's fine if you want to skip the staff report, but my recommendation is to hear public comment before council goes into discussion.
Okay, let's hear the staff report and then hear public comment.
All right, good evening again, Mayor, members of the City Council, Adam Matamian, Community Development Director. I will give as brief of a report as I can, just summarizing what is before the council at this point, understanding that there will probably be some questions and follow-up afterwards. So the item before you is really born of the city's desire to investigate and the general plan's direction to the city to continually investigate new opportunities as it relates to implementing the city's economic development goals. This discussion has been brought to the city staff's attention through various communications individually with council members, hearing from the public. We know that there's a desire to continually look at our zoning ordinance to find opportunities for enhancement. And so the item before you is one example of a path forward that the council could decide to take. Zoning ordinance tend to be rather complicated, and so it's easier if staff puts together kind of a general framework for the council's consideration and then be available for any direction that the council wants to give staff moving forward. So just some quick background. The city's general plan does include economic development policies that give staff direction and the city council the authority to investigate new opportunities to ensure that the city's economic development plan is implemented. There are specific areas of town that are focus points, and in reviewing the various areas of the city, staff, feels confident that that this particular interchange is ripe for some enhancement. So the attached overlay is one potential for the council to consider. It's important to note that zoning amendments come in one of two ways generally. The first is generally property owners will propose a zoning amendment to amend the zone that their property is within to take advantage of changing marketplaces or desire for different zoning or development standards. And the other is a city-initiated zoning amendment, and that is to further the goals of the general plan. And so in this respect, this would be a city-initiated action, which the city would initiate by city council action, directing staff to then take the zoning amendment to the planning commission for their review. They would make a recommendation and bring it back to the city council. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the specifics of the potential or the proposed overlay, but keeping in mind the staff report did address the idea that there are other options available, and we could look at things citywide, but city staff would want that direction from the council and be able to contemplate what those impacts to staff resources would be, and better work through that direction. So I will end the presentation with that, and I am available for any questions.
All right. Let's hear from the public since they're...
Okay, I'll call the first several speakers. Bart DeCoro, followed by Crystal Stowe, followed by Helena DeCoro, followed by Dennis Caricio. That's okay, thank you. Bart?
Yes, I'm Bart DeCoro. Good evening. My name is Bart DeCoro, and I live at 2207 Via Gavilan. I'm 81 years of age. The home my wife and I own in Marblehead, San Clemente, is the final home that we will ever own. We searched many years for just the right home for us. We finally found the perfect home for my wife and I here in San Clemente. We love our home for the peace and tranquility it gives us. Sitting on our patio, simply looking out at the beautiful, expansive ocean has a very calming and joyful effect. I do not think that a fifth-floor deck and bar would really be beneficial to the city. This hotel development with its lights, noise, and the obstruction of the ocean view will have a very detrimental effect, not only on us, but on many others. Please vote no on this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Crystal Stowe, followed by Helena DeCoro, followed by Dennis Caricio, followed by Amy Talixon.
Good evening.
I am opposed to changing the zoning ordinance that will allow taller buildings and rooftop bars in San Clemente. This is not going to drive revenue and tax dollars for the city. I travel a lot for pleasure, and I've never picked a hotel based on whether it has a rooftop bar. This is being considered for the hotel planned at the outlets. The rooftop bar will impede views and also generate noise from live bands, both of which will compromise quality of life in the surrounding areas and decrease property values. This is just another attempt to make the outlets more profitable and desirable, when in fact the outlets are an outdated venue. The outlets were supposed to be just that, outlets. So to address weak revenue from the outlets, what I call non-outlet activity has been allowed in hopes of bringing people to the outlets, all of which have negatively affected the neighboring communities, the same communities that will be negatively affected by a rooftop bar. A weekly car show has been allowed at the outlets, and now every Saturday, life is like living next to a racetrack. The city nor the police can control loud noise from this each week. A yearly pumpkin patch has been allowed at the outlets, which seemingly is low-key, but an amusement park has also been allowed at the pumpkin patch, which brings bright lights and noise. A Christmas tree selling area has been allowed each year, innocent enough, but again, an amusement park is allowed next to it, bringing lights and bright lights and loud screams into the surrounding communities, the same who will be affected by the lights, height, and noise from a rooftop bar. This may all sound seasonal, but in reality, this activity drones on from September to New Year's. That's 25% of the year we look out to these bright lights and the screaming. I've heard comments stating that the noise level from a rooftop bar will be controlled with regulations and fines. The noise from the car show has not been controlled. The bright lights from the outlets are to be out by 9 p.m. For some reason, the largest and most bright light from Asada is exempt from this, and it stays on well after 9 o'clock and sometimes all night long. So I have no faith that the noise from the rooftop bar will be controlled any better than the noise and bright lights from the outlets currently. Why change the city codes to satisfy a limited number of people sitting at a rooftop bar at the expense of many neighboring communities on both sides of the hotel? All of this is activity not consistent with a typical outlet, nor is it consistent with the agreement the city already made with the hotel developer. People are not staying away from the outlets or a hotel because there's not a rooftop bar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Tallickson, followed by Lynn Sobel. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, Dennis Caricio, followed by Amy Tallickson.
Good evening, Council. City Manager Andy Hall, my brother Hiley thinks highly of you. Ken Caricio, City Manager for many years, and the Planning Commission. This is another ploy by Steve Craig to get his way. If the council was here 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when the outlets were being discussed, major addresses at St. Andrew's Church, where we had 300 people or more, he was trying to go for large letters for his outlet shops. Monument signs on each side all got voted down because a lot of people complained. There's another ploy to go ahead and add an extra story to a hotel that was supposed to be originally 3 stories, now got voted into 4 stories, and now wants to go to 5. We are just going to keep having this Steve Craig thing go on and on. We didn't get any notices. I am Dennis Caricio, by the way, the president of the Marblehead Estates HOA. We didn't get any notices until yesterday of this agenda on here. I remember during the outlet conversations and everything that we actually had letters come to us to where we can participate. This was for us, we had to do this very quickly to come here tonight and to complain about what he's trying to get done again. One of the things too that is very disturbing is the city is going to have to foot some of the bill of the EIR, $55,000. Mr. Clegg's not going to put a penny, well, he might put a penny in, but he's not footing the whole bill for this whole thing. I also say, if anybody has either worked for Mr. Craig or been retained by Mr. Craig that's on this council, that they refrain from voting on this bill in the prior, right now, and in the future. And for the homeowner association of the estates at this point, we ask a no vote on this. Thank you very much.
So are you speaking for the states then?
I am the president of the estates right now.
But the states has approved this resolution or?
The council has.
Okay.
Okay. Is that okay?
Oh, no, I just,
Okay, yeah. No, I'm just not speaking on my behalf. I'm actually speaking on the board itself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Tallickson, followed by Lynn Sobel, followed by Rebecca Barnes.
So I am here on behalf of the Highland Light Village HOA, which is also in Marblehead, and we are asking for a no vote as well. I've got a couple of concerns. I don't think that, especially Councilmember Knobloch, I don't think that you realize the noise that comes up because of the fog that comes up, that gully there. The noise that we get in Marblehead is outrageous, and we already know because we have church down in that exact same spot every Sunday. We can hear every single word that they're saying. So we know a rooftop bar is going to add a lot of noise to our neighborhoods. But beyond that, the wisdom of somebody putting a hotel right next to our middle school, a place where potential predators could take our children into a confined area. We all know that the children hang out there after school. Putting a hotel there is already ridiculous. Adding to that a place where people are going to come to drink, having a bar in a hotel is one thing. Having a rooftop bar is going to attract all sorts of residents and other things. And don't get me wrong, a rooftop bar is great. But we have so many children right there. And the city has done nothing to address the northbound off-ramp, on-ramp at Vista Hermosa, which I came to you guys last year to get crossing guards for our school because of the way that intersection is designed. Even Caltrans agrees, it's extremely dangerous. To cross that as a pedestrian, you can't see the pedestrians when you're getting on the freeway. There's no notice that they're even there. You can't really see what's going on when you're getting off of that freeway because of the angle of the crosswalk. To add alcohol to that particular on-ramp, off-ramp with children, and then potentially having out-of-towners who don't even know how dangerous that particular intersection is, this is just a recipe for disaster. It's just not the right place. That is basically our middle school entrance and exit now, because nobody goes to the front of the school anymore. I can't even believe that a hotel was allowed to be there, and now you're going to put a bar. Somebody's got to do something to protect our kids, let alone our residents and the noise and the views that we've all paid millions of dollars for. I got to tell you guys, there's going to be just a massive, massive outcry if this doesn't get denied right here tonight.
Lynn Sobel, followed by Rebecca Barnes, followed by Roxanne.
You missed somebody.
I think we did.
Good evening. I thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. And I'm not so well prepared because I just heard about this afternoon. So this is very rough. But, you know, from my heart, we have zoning rules and ordinances for a reason. And there was a general plan, and people bought into these homes, some cases decades ago, based on what their understanding was of the rules. And now, because of a developer, I don't think it's city is initiated, I think it's more developer initiated, things are looking to be changed again. I was involved in, years ago, the lawsuit over the oversized freeway signs between Vista Hermosa and Avenida Pico. there was a lawsuit filed, and it was won based on CEQA violations, okay? And in this case, you're looking at a situation where it's going to have a huge impact on the quality of life of the people living there. I happen to live at 2239 Avenida Oliva. That is the first street on the entry there. I do hear the church noises, you know, and especially if there's a festival or something like that that they have going on. And I don't object, it's not every day. But when you put in a rooftop bar, those noises are going to be ongoing every night. And it is going to destroy the viewshed of so many homes in Marblehead. And people bought their homes for the ambience, for the views. And I really think it would be unfair to change things at this point. I mean, my understanding, the hotel was going to be 3 stories. Yeah. Personally, I had no problem with it. Boutique hotel, I thought, you know, it'll bring people into San Clemente. But then it went to 4 stories. Now, basically, you're looking at a 5th story with a pool and rooftop bar, potentially. The noise pollution, the lighting pollution, I mean, this is going to have a very detrimental effect and impact on the lifestyle of the residents there, as well as their home values. So I please ask you to vote no, and thank you very much.
Next speaker is Rebecca Barnes.
Council members, Mr. Mayor, I'm Rebecca Barnes, and I live in Highland Lights on Via Gavilon, just above the proposed Marriott. Before I address my concerns about the Marriott, I'll mention again that we live right near Hermosa. The Saturday car show impacts us every single Saturday. I'm in favor of the car show. It's good for San Clemente. It's good for the outlets, and we are owners of a high-performance cars, and we have participated in that show. But every single Saturday from 8:30 in the morning until at least noon, we call it Racetrack Saturday. It's very, very loud. I know they've tried to mitigate the noise, but they cannot, so we are impacted by that. We have already taken one for the team. So addressing the Marriott, the rooftop Marriott, your impact report implies that it would have low impact on the neighborhoods surrounding it. So I Googled, how annoying is a rooftop bar? And so some of the comments, I have never stayed in a louder hotel. No, not only is the music and bass way too loud, the DJ is bad. I stayed at a really nice hotel and was expecting a relaxing stay, but we got the opposite. The music was so loud you could feel the vibrations when sitting on the toilet. Couldn't sleep because of the rooftop bar. There was a party going on at a courtyard. After the checking their website and other reviews, this is a very common occurrence. The noise from the bar is unbearable. Stayed at this hotel twice, but never again. Both times we hear loud music from our room. Only stay at a hotel with a rooftop bar if you plan to participate in the bar scene. Otherwise, you will be kept awake by screaming people, loud music, and thumping bass. Never been in a hotel that was so loud. So I urge you to please do not allow a rooftop bar to be put on the Marriott. You will ruin the quality of life for thousands of San Clemente citizens just to benefit a few who want to come and party. And we are chipping away at the village by the sea ambiance that we are trying to create. So I please urge you, vote no on the rooftop, 5th floor and rooftop bar. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other
Yeah, Roxanne Panacci, I believe, followed by Jody.
Hi, everybody. My name is Roxanne Panicacci. My maiden name is Stambuck, and my parents have lived at Marblehead since 1999, and they also live on Avenida Oliva, and I've been living with them since April because my mom has been very sick, and I've been helping to take care of them. If you've ever had a chance to visit this neighborhood, it's an unmatched, luxurious, family and peaceful environment. And prior to this, by the way, my dad was also a resident in San Clemente for many years prior, and he was a physician in San Clemente as well. So yeah, I'm opposed to Agenda D10 due to many of the things that have been mentioned, but some other ones as well. View obstruction, light pollution. There's already bright lights from the empty pumpkin stand reflecting kind of annoyingly and obtrusively in the Seville retirement area already. Noise pollution, the car show, weekly traffic and noise, that's the reason why. And the impacts on the neighbors in the neighborhoods. And I'm surprised today, I don't know how many neighbors have come out, maybe they didn't know, but that incredibly gorgeous neighborhood that I wish I would have purchased in, but I didn't, in front of the outlets. I mean, that is a treasure. I enjoy every day walking there. It's amazing, but the impact to that neighborhood will be severe as well. So those are the reasons I oppose this. And then, although this is very specifically applied to, this very specific area, Vista Hermosa, which I think in and of itself is concerning to begin with, and I know that was mentioned earlier, I think it's going to be a watershed moment in terms of all businesses that will want to apply and implement a rooftop bar, and also implement these increased heights everywhere. And again, I am not against economic development, but could there be an alternative, such as an atrium with a possibility for a fourth level enjoyment of outdoor space? Other places that I've seen that are luxurious as well have like an elevated pool. And I'm not talking about one that has a glass bottom, but one that's on very stable concrete, and then you could have the view area in front, and it would be, a nice place to enjoy as well. And then I have to say, as a mother who loves my kids, and I myself as a doctor, I'm sure you've heard of the danger to life of a rooftop bar, fall injuries,
Thank you.
and DUIs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jody, followed by Kathy Ward, followed by Mike Kay.
I was on the list. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
My name off the list. I'd like to speak.
You'll be able to
You'll be able to speak.
Thank you.
Oh, Helena Decor. Sorry, some of these stuck together. My apologies. Some of the cards kind of stuck. All right, we'll start your time over.
Thank you.
Sorry about
I
that.
promise I won't take it all up. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Jody DeLassio. I'm a resident of Marblehead, 2119 Avenida Oliva. Our community in Marblehead, I just really feel like is slowly just getting eroded in terms of our quality of life. I first want to just thank all my neighbors that have come up and spoken. What wonderful comments. You painted the picture of why my wife and I, like our first speaker, decided to buy our forever house, and that's where we live. And we want to continue to live in that peace and quiet. But our tranquility is being slowly eroded away at living within the outlet area. Come to my house on a Saturday morning for a cup of coffee, and we'll sit in my backyard, and we'll listen to the racetrack. And it's really good coffee, too. But you hear it, 2 times a day, the coming and the going. And again, I certainly support the economical sustenance that I'm certain this car show brings to San Clemente. But the noise pollution, it's egregious. Twice, as I said, twice a day, or twice in a 2-hour period, we get to listen to that. And the uncontrolled chaos that goes on Hermosa at the departure of the kids climbing out onto the street, taking photos, it's every week. You can literally set your clock to watching that unsafe activity. I know our law enforcement does their best to control it. We see in the paper once in a while they, have big pullovers and catching the vehicles revving their engines and coming in and out of the city. But I mean, it's uncontrolled chaos that happens there. You're not controlling that noise or these unsafe situations. And now consideration of a rooftop bar and live music to a community already being subject to light pollution with pumpkins and Christmas trees 4 months out of the 12. It's another way of chipping away at our quality of life in our forever place. All that noise comes directly right across the freeway into our houses. It's just aggravating. It's noise pollution, and it's ruining our community. And finally, I would ask that with giving us literally 24 hours in our community, I know 4 of our neighbors that wrote letters, but they wanted to be here. They couldn't be here. They are away. So I absolutely oppose 10D, and I ask your support in absolutely shutting this down and giving it a big fat no. But if that isn't the case, let's at least table this and give our community a little more than 24 hours to come and protect what is our tranquility. We really ask this and really ask for your consideration. And look, I took up all that time. Come have coffee.
Thank you. We skipped somebody?
Yes, Helena, sorry, a couple of the cards stuck together. Helena Decora, sorry about that. And I didn't see you behind the podium there. My apologies.
Good evening, Mayor and staff. Happy to be here. My name is Helena Decoro, and I live at 2207 Via Gavilon. I wanted to comment on no ability to know about this. That's not playing nice. If you only find out indiscriminately by a neighbor who says, oh, by the way, there's going to be a meeting tonight. I'm amazed we got as many people out. I know my daughter and I were handing out flyers to the neighbors. Why did you do it that way? That's not a good way. I was here 2-3 years ago when we voted, hopefully not on a 3-story hotel roof bar. It was tabled, and the comment to me as I left, we'll let you know when we discuss it again. Well, I got news for you. I didn't know. Most of the people on my block that I talked to didn't know. So I'm asking the city, your communication right now, if I were to grade it, what would you think the communication would be, Chris Duncan?
Like my grades in high school, not good.
Thank you for being honest. I would ask that better communication go on, and everybody that spoke, the noise pollution, the lighting at night. Come on, a 5-story bar? Who's going to go there? I'm a senior citizen. I'm not going to be up there making noises, and I don't think any of the seniors that live anywhere near me would be. It's rowdy, noise-polluting people that want to have a good time at San Clemente. Let them do it at the beach or on Del Mar, where they're planning another hotel, I noticed. Are they going to have a rooftop bar on Del Mar? So please, let us know what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Ward, and Kathy did bring some handouts, so.
You're handed a handout that states the current city's procedure for this specific plan. I am here tonight to just speak for all the people that couldn't be here tonight. I spent the entire day talking to people, calling me from out of state because they're on vacation. They did not expect this. I don't even think the council truly expected it. To me, when I read the staff report, it's a couple of council members who are trying to force an issue and trying to do a general plan amendment that already has an accepted process that the entire community has bought in on, including all the other councils that bought in on it for the entitlements they already have. If you look at the first one, prior approved design building permits, this developer, Craig Realty, can take out a permit right now for that hotel. It is fully approved. I approved it. Fully approved. If they want an amendment, this is the accepted process that they have to do. They have to ask for an amendment. They have to pay the city to do the process, and pay for the staff time, not the city council and the residents paying for the staff time. It requires an EIR. That is accepted and was promised to the residents, to all adjacent uses, EIR. We had to beg, we had to really work with the developer to do an EIR for their sign permits. Do the EIR, get it over with, get the application in. The sooner they do it, the sooner it's built. But this council should not be trying to force in a public process and paying for it, for staff time, for the EIR, which, by the way, this report says they're not even sure what's going to be required. We already know what's required, a full EIR that takes into account the impacts to all of the residents so that they can be mitigated. If he wants another floor, it has to be done. It isn't your job to do things for a Newport Beach developer so that they can finish their project. That is not what you do. This process, this report is so vague that I'm embarrassed, and I apologize to all of the residents for this happening and for it being in front of you, because you should not be put in this position at all. This is done, it has to go to coastal, and then he gets building permits. But I urge you, in the name of economic development, you do not try to force in a rooftop bar and another story into something where it's probably the most prominent development in the city with many, like decades of work done to it. We took away the end of their development deal. We gave them all the time in the world to get this done. And I'm not thinking that that was so appreciated, that the city of San Clemente did that for them, because now they don't want to go through the process that they're supposed to go through.
Thank you.
Okay, please don't do this and allow it to go through.
Thank you.
Do the right thing.
All right. Any other?
Yes, Mike Kay, followed by Amanda Quintanilla.
All right, I'm gonna get booed. Go ahead, start booing. We need hotels. Family comes and visit, they go to Dana Point. They spend a lot of money. Did it last Christmas, we're making our Thanksgiving plans right now, and they're looking at hotels in Dana Point. Our hotel, they're nasty. They don't represent who we are. We're an affluent area. We work hard, we make good decisions. Our family comes to visit, they love our city, it's amazing, and they don't have a place to stay. If we want to have a future Olympics or other things, it's a criteria we have to have. We need some hotels. There's always going to be some NIMBYism that goes on with it. Always, no matter where it goes. We're going to hear the same people come to the same thing no matter what hotels you look at. I was in Palm Springs a while back. I think I told Laura about it. I stay at the Rowan, I think it's called, 5 stories high with a rooftop bar. I'd never been to a rooftop hotel bar. If you're ever in Palm Springs, check it out. I was shocked. It was really nice. And I thought, this is what we need in San Clemente. This is great. This would fit us perfectly. We don't want giant resorts, the way they have, but we do need revenue generation. We do need to develop our town right now. We do need a place for folks to stay when they're visiting. Should we block somebody's view? I don't know. Okay, the minutiae of it, I don't know. Will the lights really be a problem? Yeah, okay, those are valid things. Those are little stuff we could iron out. I just want to say something. I have owned a house in Calle Frontera for over 20 years. My kids were born there, raised there. They went to school at the church when they were little ones, preschool. The noise is so loud off that freeway for the first 4 blocks, Marblehead and the Coast neighborhood where I am, that you cannot hear the development across the street. So there may be some real concerns, and they're valid, but some of what I'm hearing from my neighbors, and these are my neighbors. I live right there. I get off on Villa Hermosa. That's my wife and kids are there now, and we're separated. But that's been my off-ramp for a long time. It's traffic, and it's NIMBYism. We don't want that right there. But in the end, the big picture of our town, a rooftop bar, if it's taken care of and adjudicated and everything, and as Kathy Ward pointed out, the Coastal Commission is going to look into it. All these other people are going to look into it. It's a long way away from getting there, but the concept is not a bad one. It will not invite a bunch of ruffians. These are expensive hotels with expensive drinks, and it's a clientele that isn't really served in our area. But it's a nice asset. So go ahead and boo me. But I think we need it.
Thank you. All right. Any other speakers?
Final speaker is Amanda Quintanilla.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so thankful that former Mayor Kathy Ward was here because she definitely knows the general plan amendment and the Marblehead specific plans and all the specific plans at length. And I'm glad she brought up a full environmental report is required under the California Coastal Commission. When I saw this on the agenda, I was really concerned because why is this coming back up? This hasn't been presented in years. I know that Jonathan Lightfoot at a San Clemente Chamber of Commerce meeting did bring up some plans, but it was something that he had mentioned that there's no plans right now, that they're not going to be developing. So I'm really concerned now why why the city's trying to push this through for a bar up there. And according to Jonathan Lightfoot, it's my understanding that there has been no resubmittal for the rooftop bar at the Lodge Hotel at the outlets. So why is this on the agenda? And so I'm really concerned, and I really am in agreement with all the people that have come to speak. There has been no proper notification, 24-hour notice. That's not right, to the residents that live there. And I think what Kathy Ward did not mention regarding some restaurant pads that were not built yet, and that could be a serious problem down the road. But I'm really concerned why this is trying to be pushed through. Why now? I know that the city has some financial concerns, but that goes back to our budgeting, the city budgeting correctly, not getting into litigation and spending, thousands of dollars on unnecessary where they need to be proactive. And I just feel that right now, this should not be pushed through. This is not right. I think there's really legitimate concerns, and I think this should be a no vote for this. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you consider no. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was our final speaker.
Final speaker. All right. Did you have, let me ask you raise a couple questions. I'm going to start with those. This, Kathy Ward, I think, said this project was previously approved. Is it under her administration or?
Completely approved. They can pull permits tomorrow.
No discussion.
No, there's no discussion from the public. I'm talking to Adam. There's no discussion. Actually,
Yes, the hotel was previously approved as a 4-story structure. Yes.
okay. All right. And was there conceptually a rooftop? I don't even know if it's a bar or restaurant or.
There was previously, there was an application prior to COVID that was proposing would have been a specific plan amendment to allow a rooftop deck and some other related ancillary structures, but that application was withdrawn.
Okay. I have a question also about the notice. There's a couple people said they only got 24-hour notice. Was there a problem with their notice or?
This is.
We're not going to have public discussion. You had the opportunity to talk, but I'm asking our clerk about the note.
This is not a public hearing where we would do mailings to individuals. This was noticed as part of our 72-hour in advance publication of our agenda. I believe the next step would be a planning commission public hearing. That would be noticed at least 10 days in advance, and then from there it would be a public hearing at the city council, which would also be noticed 10 days in advance, mailed to property owners as well as advertised in the newspaper.
So I mean, I think, Rick, you had the concern about that, the notice too, and for whatever reason, people don't feel like they had the opportunity to come here and speak and didn't get the appropriate notice. But can you help me understand how long this process would take and how many opportunities people would have to weigh in for or against through the next several years?
So this process would have at least 3 additional or 3 future public hearings, but these types of amendments can go to the Planning Commission for multiple meetings for their deliberation. Their recommendation, once forwarded to the City Council, could be approved at one meeting, or it could require additional meetings. As an example, we processed a zoning permit streamlining amendment last year that was intended to streamline the review process and just clarify some things in the code. That project went to the Planning Commission like 4 times. So there was ample opportunity for the public to weigh in on it, to help shape the Planning Commission's recommendation before it came back to the Planning Commission, or to the City Council, rather.
All right. Yes.
Yeah, just a couple comments. It seems like a lot of people have the idea that we're going to be approving a rooftop lounge this evening. That's not going to happen. This is a request by staff to begin the process of a zone amendment to decide whether we should have this particular zone. It would have to go to the Planning Commission. If the Planning Commission made a recommendation, it would come back to us. If the ordinance was approved, we'd have to have several public hearings on it. So the process is preliminary. It's just getting started. And just a few comments that were made, just real quick. This is not about the outlets, because the outlets isn't the owner of the property, and the outlets wouldn't, if an application were to be made, they wouldn't be making the application. It's not about cars and coffee, because that's a totally separate operation under a separate conditional use permit. It's not about the outlet signage and the litigation that happened 20 years ago. The signage issue has been resolved. The city settled that lawsuit, and appropriate signage was placed on the outlets and also approved for the hotel. And concerning drinking and the problem in the community, when kids are being dropped off at the school, people aren't going to be drinking at 8 o'clock in the morning or causing a problem on a rooftop lounge 1,000 feet away when kids are being dropped off, or 700 feet, whatever the distance is. Nor will they be drinking when the kids are picked up, and the kids won't be on the street at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or midnight or however late the facilities open.
We can't have public comment here at this point in time.
So it's the beginning of a process to decide whether the city in its economic interest should have a facility, a world-class facility which is very, 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 I think there's one other in Orange County, in Newport Beach. It would be a phenomenal asset that needs to be considered. We may not approve it, but this isn't an approval evening. It's a process that's beginning. So those are my comments, and I used to work for the company. In fact, I was on the council 20 years ago, got off the council, and 3 or 4 years after I left the council, I joined the legal department for a few years and left the Craig Realty Group about 4+ years ago. So the suggestion that I have a conflict of interest, I have no interest in the project whatsoever, no economic interest. My objective is to make sure that the city of San Clemente has a viable economic basis in which to provide all of our services. So again, it's the beginning of a process, and I think we ought to at least consider it. And obviously, everyone can speak to the issue. There was one comment that was made about signage. I do recall that there was a computerized visual stimulation of Marblehead on the lowest streets, and the visual impact of the bar was literally non-existent in terms of blue water view interference. You can see it, obviously, you can see anything. But again, the hotel is put in a narrow view toward the ocean, not Broadway, where it would be a visual impact. It's narrow. And as I understand it, the plans that the city was considering some years ago had the angle of the roof and the improvements in a way that obviously drifted down closer to the ocean. They got closer so that the view would again have a de minimis impact. So again, it's the beginning of a process. We're not approving anything tonight other than allowing our planning experts at the Planning Commission to consider the zoning modification.
All right. Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, just a few questions that were brought up, and I would love to hear from Mr.
Oh, if I can interrupt, One quick comment. Pardon me, Mark. When our former council member was speaking, one of her colleagues on the council, Chris Ham, was the one who was saying, "Where's the rooftop lounge? Why aren't you putting a rooftop lounge in this hotel?" To this day, he's every time I see him, he says, "When are you guys going to put a rooftop lounge on it?" Just an interesting point.
Yes, just a couple questions on this EIR. Why is the cost of $55,000 going to the city and not the applicant?
As a city-initiated amendment, the city would bear the cost of this. There's no specific applicant because it covers multiple properties. And so this is not an applicant-driven action.
So hypothetically, say this were not passed, would the applicant then put forward a amendment that the applicant would then pay for that cost?
That I would not be able to answer that because I don't know what the applicant's current desires are as far as that project is concerned.
Other questions were brought up about noise pollution, light pollution, the view corridors. Has there been a study here at all on what light pollution would be caused by this, or noise pollution, or the view corridor? I mean, I know there has been a view corridor simulation. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, so as part of a previous application, there was a view analysis that was provided. That was based on a project that has since been withdrawn, so I can't say whether that would be the same if you know, a project that would be proposed under a zoning amendment as currently being discussed. I don't know off the top of my head what other reports were provided as far as that project is concerned. I was not intimately involved with that previous application, and it was withdrawn years ago. So I don't have an answer to that question.
So, again, hypothetically speaking, going forward, let's make an assumption here that this does pass in the planning committee. Would there then be, or planning commission, would there then be an EIR there, or would the applicant pay for one in that next process going through?
So there would always be an environmental assessment as part of any city action. In a future project application that would be reviewed through a discretionary process, which utilizing this type of overlay would still require public hearings. There would be an environmental assessment at that time. Depends on what the application actually consists of. So it's hard for me to speak to hypotheticals, but those impacts would be analyzed as far as this type of zoning amendment, and would be further analyzed as part of the application for any discretionary permits.
So just so I'm clear here, right now there isn't one, but if this were to go through, or even not go through, whatever the process is, then an EIR would be done, and at that point, the community could also make their voices heard?
An environmental assessment will be done,
That's
whether
the
that's
second,
a full environmental impact report or a categorical exemption or a negative declaration or a mitigated negative declaration is up to the actual proposal at hand. So even as far as this project's concerned, the dollar amount that staff is anticipating is based on what is proposed as attached to the staff report. But if there's different council direction, that may change what the environmental assessment is likely to be. This is just our initial assessment of those costs as far as this project's concerned.
And can you explain to me why staff is making this proposal to council now as opposed to later or earlier? Why is there a reason at this moment?
I think it's come up in discussions over the last few years, especially with some of the other hotel projects that we've been seeing go through the process. There's we're always looking at opportunities to further the city's economic development goals. I think in light of some of the other projects that have occurred, staff has found that this is a reasonable time to at least ask this question.
Thank you.
Help me understand, I'm going to go back because I'm still a little bit, what has been approved to date? I mean, because years ago, I wasn't on the city council, but 8 years ago, a project was approved. What was approved? What could they go to tomorrow and build?
The project that was approved was a 4-story hotel.
Okay, so they could start tomorrow building this 4-story hotel, essentially.
I believe that project is vested, but I know that they pulled a grading permit. They started the grading on it. The grading permit lapsed, so I believe it's still vested, but I believe it was just due to the economic conditions at that time that it wasn't feasible for them to finish the project. But
Interest rates at very high levels, maybe.
Yeah, a 4-story hotel that is oriented perpendicular to the freeway is what was approved.
Okay, all right. And the process going forward, if we approve this, is how long will that, how long do you envision that taking, and how many different opportunities are there for people to weigh in?
So there would be a minimum of 3 public hearings or opportunities for the public to weigh in with subsequent meetings, not including this one. The timeline, that is hard to say. Staff does not always and rarely is in control of the actual timeline, because we're proposing something to the Planning Commission and wanting their direction and feedback. So it depends on how many times it would need to go back to the Planning Commission. Okay. It also is going to be determined through the environmental review process. So once we have something actually put together, then we're going to have to go through that process as well, and that can take some time depending on what type of assessment is needed.
All right. Chris, did you? No. Okay. Rick?
Well, as I stated before, I want to see a hotel here too. Like Mike stated, I wish they'd already built it when it was approved, and we'd have a hotel. That'd be great. I just have an issue with the process here, and I'd like with the applicant, if there was an applicant, would come in and apply, and we just go through the process, the standard process. So we're going to spend money on something we don't even know if we have an applicant, and I don't see spending the city's money on that. And also, I do something unique. Well, I shouldn't say it's unique. It's consistent with me, is I listen to the residents. And the residents who are here tonight are pretty clear about their concern. I got many more phone calls than we actually had people talk today, speak tonight. And we have emails. If you check your emails, I think nobody's here screaming and yelling really about of course, they don't want a rooftop deck. I think that's fair to say. But there's also the process that they're concerned with. It just doesn't seem like the normal process. And if we have an applicant and they apply, we're going to go through the exact same process that we would do here, even if we approved it. Except we would have an applicant, and they would be paying all the bills for it. And I just think there's a difference when the city council sends something to the Planning Commission, how they look at it, as opposed when an applicant goes before the Planning Commission and moves it forward. I think they're much more objective with an applicant than they would be with the city council, saying, we want you to look at this. And I think it's more compelling than it would be with the applicant. They'd look at it completely different. So again, what I said before, I would like to have staff come back with some other options, so we could look at some options, because we're looking at economic development and improvement for the city. There might be better options for that. So again, I'm kind of going with, and Kathy Ward is very, very compelling. She was on the Planning Commission for a long time. She was a city council person and a mayor for a long time. I've never known although I don't always agree with Kathy, and she'll verify that, but I've always known that she's done her homework, and she's very well educated in this area. And I just kind of have to defer to that in this case.
All right. Thank you. I've asked my questions, yeah. So, is there any further discussion? Or,
Well,
wait. I think.
did you have?
Mark?
No, go for it. I'll go after you.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'm still formulating, so go ahead.
Well, I want to make a motion, so we do.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you had a question. Okay, hypothetically, we say no on this. That, if there is an applicant, it goes through the normal process of the planning commission as any other applicant, and then if they want a rooftop bar, they would then go through that process instead of coming here first.
Yes, they could propose a development with some type of zoning amendment at the same time. That would be presented to the planning commission, and then that would come to the city council, because it would require city council approval to change anything related to the zoning code.
So is the reason to do this then to encourage this hotel to have an easier time with that process?
The idea with economic development is that the city looks for opportunities to incentivize development. This is not tailored specifically to any specific property. It covers a number of properties. The staff report, discusses one of the general plan policies in the economic development element that discusses this area specifically, stating that, should the development not fulfill its intended scale, that the city would look at opportunities to further incentivize that. The overlay includes a number of things that would facilitate the development of a potential hotel, but along with other things as well. So the idea with this project is to spur economic development. If an applicant is proposing something that typically doesn't fall under the category of the city's economic development, our economic development is the city's initiatives designed to encourage the type of development that the general plan contemplates.
I'll ask another question. I've seen with some of the other developments that the planning commission, when they get this, they put all kinds of restrictions on the community is concerned with, like noise and sound, and that's all part of the process that remains if this is approved, right? It's not like they could just do what they want with that property.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, the Planning Commission is very well versed in applying appropriate conditions of approval that are designed specifically to help the project meet the findings for approval, which are geared at addressing negative impacts to adjacent neighborhoods, general negative impacts and compatibility issues for the community, in that area generally. So there would absolutely be an opportunity for conditions of approval to address the issues, related to some of these types of developments, including noise and light.
Noise, sound, light, all those things.
Yes.
All right.
And the public's, again, I'm just emphasizing, the public would have multiple opportunities after this vote, one way or the other, to make their voices heard on this matter.
Yes, on this matter specifically, and for the types of larger developments that we're talking about that would potentially benefit from this type of zoning amendment, on those projects as they're proposed as well.
Again, just let me say, this is the beginning of a process to consider a zoning amendment, which I think would benefit the economic viability of our town. It's not a permit for a rooftop lounge. There's no permit pending. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have no knowledge that there is such a thing pending. It's to begin a process there'll be ample public comment, so unless there are any additional comments, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 24-114 and the items, bullet points 1 and 2 listed in the staff recommendation. That's my motion. Pardon me? 24-144, is that not what I said? Okay, 24-144, thank you. That's my motion.
There needs to be a second.
Second, anyone? I'd like to defer to staff, but I'll second it if there's no other. Did you have something else that you wanted to?
No, I made the suggestion, I don't know, an hour ago, is I would have liked to seen it go back to staff and come back with some other alternatives for economic development. If that's what this is really about, I'd like to see some other options. That's what I'd like to see.
I just didn't know if you were going to put that in the form of a second.
A motion?
Well, sure, I'll make a motion that we send this back to staff to look at other areas of the city, not just this area of the city, to see what opportunities there are for economic development or possible zoning changes, and not just this one footprint here, because I just think we're painting ourselves into a corner.
All right. Is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
All right, there's a first and a second on that. Any discussion?
City Clerk, I think we're going to do the substitute motion first.
Substitute first.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just didn't know if there was any discussion before we.
It doesn't appear
the mayor
that
was-
there's any
Okay, so
substitute.
we will do a roll call vote on the substitute motion, which is to return this item to staff to look at other areas in the city for economic development. The motion on your screen here is actually the original motion, and that's because, I'll cancel it out here. And I will do a roll call vote on the substitute motion, which is Councilmember Duncan.
Yeah, I found the residents very compelling. Nice job. So I'll say aye on the substitute motion.
Councilmember Leffler?
Aye.
Councilmember Noblock?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Enmeyer?
Aye.
And Mayor Cabral?
Yeah, I think I have concerns about the notice that people complained about. I'm an aye, too.
Carries 5-0 to return to staff to look at other economic development opportunities within the city. Moving on to.
Just so you know, that's a no on the other motion.
Right, it is.
Thank you.
No on the original motion.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent calendar, I don't have any public comments. I do have one comment from staff, and that is that item 11H, which is consideration of a resolution approving and adopting compensation changes for certain classifications based on city manager classification and compensation, desk audit findings, and adoption of a revised salary schedule. That report has been updated. It's been updated online. It's sitting in front of you at the dais, and there's a copy in the back for members of the public to see the revised.
Mayor, can we take 5 minutes?
Absolutely. I'll take 5 minutes.
It's all good. He throws like Frank Burns, but it's all good.
That's the first pitch, right?
All right, next item, consent.
Next item is the consent calendar. I don't have any comments from the public. I did note just before we went to break that item 11H has been updated. There's a revised version of that agenda report in front of the dais. It's been placed online and at the back of the council chambers. And other than that, or does count?
I'll make a motion to move balance.
Second.
Sorry, I need it.
Press on the button.
Yep, let's see here. Mayor Cabral are you a yes? There we go. Seems a little bit glitchy this evening. Next item on the agenda is oral communications part 2, and I do have one speaker card. Tony Rubolino. Oh, oh, is he there? Okay.
Sorry for the delay. Got caught outside. Okay. So remember over the summer that Chris had gotten a traffic stop, Chris Duncan, CJ, as some people refer to him. There's a traffic stop, there's a speeding incident, and there was some pushback a little bit on trying to get a copy of the body cam footage from OCSD, but perseverance paid off, and we got the body cam footage. So I'd like to play you a clip from that traffic stop.
Sheriff's Department, can I get your license and registration, please? Yeah. Okay. Duncan, City Council. The reason why I stopped you is I got you going 53 and a 35. I got you, man. Okay. All right, just stay in your vehicle and I'll be right back.
So there's a few minutes of dead silence there as the traffic stop is being written up. 53 and a 35, that's Chris Duncan's MO, rushing through town. And just for the mathematicians, that is 1.5 times the posted speed limit. So Chris Duncan clearly does not care about safety rules, but the big red flag for me is that as soon as the cop comes over to approach Chris and confront him about the speeding violation, he drops his title as a city council member. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, if you think that your title, and we very much appreciate our electeds and working for the city and promoting the betterment of where we live in town, but if you think that your title is an excuse to just violate the law and blatantly disregard public safety, that's not what it's about. And I do not appreciate that from Chris Duncan. Now, we know that there's a history there. If you look back, as soon as Chris blew into town right before he ran for his first council run, there was the handicap parking incident. There was the Vista Del Mar parking drop-off where he let out some students, which caused people to have to swerve around him, push people into the street. Very dangerous. There was the incident where his wife, Haley Duncan, was participated in the operation of the electric vehicle on the beach trail. And then now this. So now, you know, Chris, the reason people are shying away from your campaign this round is, and the reason that you're trailing by, I think, 5 digits in the primary with your opponent, is that people are just kind of tired of it. I mean, you operate in a hypocritical manner, but I guess from the guy who claims that he was concerned about COVID during the pandemic, but was hosting COVID parties multiple times, kind of to be expected. So Chris, I think you owe the public an apology. Thank you.
That was the only comment for oral communications. Future agenda items?
Anything?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this needs to be agendized or if the staff can simply handle it, but there was an item that was mentioned earlier this evening about Girl Scouts and the banners.
Softball.
Softball, yeah.
Girls softball.
So I thought it was softball, excuse me. we have banner mechanisms that are around town that aren't being used. I think it seems to me that anyone that has a major investment, spends a lot of money to reserve these courts, ought to have some additional value. So I don't know if staff can maybe look at maybe including those banners for major baseball, softball, soccer activities in town. I don't know if we need to agendize that, but maybe I will if we need to, but.
I don't think we do. I think,
We definitely need to look into it, because I don't have an answer, so you may not need to adjust.
Yeah, I just think that'd be a valuable thing to promote the sport and to get more people involved. The second thing I think probably does need to be agendized. There was a major presentation earlier this evening about the election integrity. A couple of years ago, I introduced a resolution for voter integrity. One of our council members with us that's still in the council voted against it. Another one spoke against it in the public forum. But I think in the last couple of years, I think it's been evident when investigative reports have come out around the country and even in California of voter impropriety. I think it's important that, and then we say, well, that's a state issue, it's not city. Fair and open election is the fundamental freedom that we have, the fundamental thing that guarantees an open and free democracy. And I think it's probably something we should at least consider as a council on behalf of our citizens to say we need to make sure we have clean and fair and valid elections with 21 million, estimates up to 21 million people that are not citizens in this country. And when you look at the news accounts, in many states, they are registering to vote. They're being excluded in a number of states, but clearly it's not being addressed. So I would ask that we agendize the resolution, the USA resolution for the election integrity resolution that was presented to us earlier.
okay.
I didn't pay close enough attention. I mean, I heard kind of what they were saying, but I don't know exactly what they were proposing. Are you saying that we should have a resolution that we support fair elections?
They had a draft resolution that the city would adopt, which I think there's a copy of it that was.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I'll second. I didn't hear anything in that was an attack on anything in particular. It just seemed more.
A generic resolution just to make sure
we have fair
elections.
elections, yeah.
With fundamental safeguards.
Yeah.
And again, this can be modified if anyone thinks that something is particularly egregious.
Oh, well, you got to say, it doesn't need a staff report, right? Can't we just?
No, this could be
review this?
agendized as this item, so I'll agendize this item, and thank you, Victor, for allowing that to be on the agenda.
Might I make a recommendation, if this is going to be on the agenda, that is it possible to have the OC registrar come here to speak on that same night to give a presentation of voter integrity?
I don't know their availability, but we can certainly check into that for sure. That'd be great. Or at least someone from the office.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. Yeah, again, I didn't, I listened and I didn't see anything.
Some of it went by me.
It was just like, let's have fair elections, which
Right. That's what I
think
heard.
everybody supports. Any other
Future agenda?
items? Future agenda items? Next item?
Commission and committee reports?
Okay.
To report?
I have one quick report so that I can keep Chris here a little bit longer. It's on the songs, the songs community engagement panel. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, I guess now. There were several things on the issue of concern to San Clementines, including a small leak in a rail car, which was addressed at the meeting. I think if anyone has an interest in that, they should take a look at the community engagement panel website. There was also some testing of the water on site that raised particular concerns about the high level of materials that shouldn't be in the water table there at the nuclear site. Again, if there's interest, the community engagement panel has posted all of that information on their website, and I encourage people to go and look at it and find out for themselves how how it's all being addressed. I also gave a report on that on the last meeting on the status of local rail lines and the ability of more sand on our beaches to protect our railroads and our rail lines, and I think that was an important contribution to the engagement panel. So that's my report. Anything else?
Oh,
All right.
no.
Okay.
City or council subcommittee updates? Any subcommittee? No? City attorney?
Thank you. I have nothing to report, except it's a pleasure to serve the city of San Clemente.
Well, thank you.
City manager?
Mayor and Council, we have one contract with Matrix Consulting, which is it's a cost recovery analysis for the recreation program in the amount of $38,000.
All right.
And it is a pleasure to work for the city.
It's a pleasure to have you here, Eddie.
Yes, let me grab my paper here, yeah. All right, I had it here, and now I just misplaced it with all the paperwork that I was given.
You want me to motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I'm gonna move to adjourn tonight, in honor of, one of the San Clemente icons that we lost, former Major League umpire Larry Puncino, who passed away on July 14th, 2024. Larry was a 1975 graduate of San Clemente High School and a former winner of the San Clemente City Golf Championship. Larry was a fixture at the Muni for many years, a larger-than-life character. He will be sincerely missed by many of his friends in town. His mother, Anne Marie Puncino, still lives in town and would have, pardon? Still lives in town and is a San Clemente resident. So tonight, and his nephew, also Vinny, who's at the golf course, head professional at the Community, is also part of that family. But we're going to adjourn tonight in memory of him, and his family will receive our condolences. So if we have a second, we'll.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
And I'll just note that the next regular city council meeting is scheduled to take place on October 1st, 2024. Closed session will begin at 5:00 p.m. and the regular business meeting will begin at 6:00 p.m. Meeting will take place in the council chambers located at 910 Cali Negocio, second floor, San Clemente.
Exactly.